Chapter 362. 10 o'clock at night. The moon had just revealed a crescent moon, and it was dark all around. In front of He Yuanyue's grave, Zhuo Duo and the others came back early, and they placed the trophy of the Longhu ranking competition in front of the tombstone. Grandma He, we're back after winning first place. This is the trophy that you've been thinking about for so many years. We are first place in the Longhu ranking of the Central Plains, the champion of the Longhu ranking. The 6 young men and women lined up in front of He Yuanyue's grave, and they bowed respectfully. He Yuanyue's portrait on the tombstone had a smile on her face, and her gaze was distant. She seemed to be very satisfied and gratified, and she seemed to have expected this day and moment. A gentle breeze blew past, and Zhuo Duo and the others' hair fluttered softly. It was as if He Yuanyue was touching the children's heads and saying softly, "You've worked hard." Zhuo Duo and the others all had tears in their eyes. "I really want to see you smile in front of us. Grandma He, we miss you so much." The breeze was gentle, and it was as if they were crying. Zhuo Duo and the others stayed in front of He Yuanyue's grave until midnight, and then they reluctantly went down the mountain. Even after walking for a long time, they could still feel the gentle and kind gaze behind them until they reached the city. "Which school do you want to go to? Have you thought about it?" Hu Ruoyan asked softly. "Yes," Yu Moyan said. "Anyway, I will definitely go to teacher Luo Yanling's." Yu Moyan seemed to have made up his mind long ago, and he was very carefree now. "My aptitude is only above average, and I can't be considered outstanding. If I go to one of the 3 universities I can go. There are teachers who have contacted me, and they even gave me an acceptance letter. But if I really go with my accumulation, it won't take long for me to disappear into the crowd. It's better to go to Jade Sun High School, where I can get more resources and strive to be outstanding." "Yes, not bad. I still choose to go with Zua. We'll go all the way." Li Chenglong laughed. "We'll go to Yunduan High School." Wan Li Xiu and Long Yuxing discussed. "All right," Li Zhongming said. "I'm going to the Dragon Soul. There are seniors who cultivate the Great Dream Divine technique there. This is where my opportunity lies. I have to go. Sigh, it's a pity that I have to part ways with you guys." Hu Ruoyun said softly, "Separation is only for the sake of better reunion. Chongming, do your best." "I will. According to the rules of the various high martial arts academies, you must report before October 1st. There is one more thing you need to pay special attention to. This time you must go alone. Family members are not allowed to escort you. The path to the various martial arts schools is not a smooth path that ordinary people can take. Instead, it is filled with danger. There are countless man-made traps, countless dangerous jungles, countless star beasts. And all of these you will have to face them yourselves. You can form your own team with students with the same goal. However, if you are found to be escorted by your family, you will be disqualified immediately." Hu Ruoyun whispered. "You have to be prepared." "All right. Once you enter the high martial arts school, it is the same as entering the battlefield of life and death. Even between high martial arts students, you can start a life and death battle. In fact, every high martial arts student will have students go to various battlefields to gain experience every month. Do you understand now? Once you leave the martial arts school of our level, you will have crossed the line between life and death. In the future, what you can achieve in the end will depend on your own fate and luck. We will no longer be able to escort you." As Hu Ruoyun spoke, the sadness in her words overflowed. She forced a laugh. "Children, do your best. Don't let us worry, and don't let us and the old principal down. We will remember." "Xiaoduo, you are planning to go to the Hidden Dragon Academy, right?" "Yes, Teacher Hu." "Then I will be more at ease if Li Chenglong goes with you." Hu Ruoyan walked in front of Zhuo Duo and gently helped him tidy up his lapel. She said softly, "When you go to the Hidden Dragon Academy, remember to keep a low profile. Okay? Before you gain a firm foothold, don't use those little tricks of yours if you can. Avoid making enemies." "Yes. Also, your enemies in Fenghai. After this competition, it is difficult to hide the karma. That life and death battle will definitely follow up. You must be careful. There is no harm in being careful." "Understood. If there is anything you can't handle, you must say it in time. Even if it is something you feel you can handle, you must say it in time. At the very least, you must leave clues about where you go every day. Don't always think about facing it alone, understand? Hu Ruoyun whispered. Understood. It has to be organized, it has to be clear. The cause and effect, who are the people around you, you must be clear. It is better not to make friends than to make friends randomly. Hu Ruoyun rambled on for a long time, but she still had not finished. Swishaoduo, on the other hand, had a look of enjoyment on his face. He listened quietly and understood everything. He understood and did not find it annoying at all. For a moment, it was as if he could not wait for Teacher Hu to never finish talking. This kind of meticulous care and warmth made Swishaoduo's heart feel extremely warm. He also took advantage of this time to read Hu Ruoyun's fortune. For this, he even used a drop of Providence Point. After confirming that there was nothing to do in the short term, he looked at his long-term fortune. It was still smooth and happy. Finally, he felt relieved. If you have time in the future, come back to the school to see me. If you are really busy, then forget it. Hu Ruoyun tiptoed and patted Swishaoduo's head. She laughed and said, You are so tall that I can't even pat you. I will definitely come back. I will come back often. Swishaoduo promised. Okay. Hu Ruoyun turned to Li Chenglong. Chenglong, you are a careful person. Remember to help Swishaoduo pay attention to the things I mentioned. In this new environment, you must support each other and entrust your backs to each other. I know. The intersection was in front of them. It was time to say goodbye again. Hu Ruoyun and Luo Lai returned to the school with the trophy. Tomorrow, Swishaoduo and the others would go to the school to receive the commendation and the graduation ceremony. After tomorrow, they would prepare to go on the road and report to the martial arts university. Hu Ruoyun said goodbye reluctantly. I will wait for you at the school tomorrow. Okay. Hu Ruoyun and Luo Lai turned and left. The 6 of them stood in a row and watched the 2 teachers walk away. When they could no longer see them, they parted ways and went their separate ways. Swishaoduo ran all the way to his home. Wow, Miss Cat. Brothers was back. After leaving home for so long, he didn't even call me. He didn't even reply to my messages. I am so angry. You think you are so great as the goddess of spiritual thoughts? I am the emperor. Come here. Kneel down. Help me wash my feet. Swishaoduo was so happy that he was like a dog that had just finished eating a bone. He was jumping all the way. Sometimes he would jump sideways, sometimes he would jump over the hurdles, sometimes he would do a standing long jump, and sometimes he would do a little deer jump. Finally, he was almost home. La 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 la. Swishaoduo sang happily. Ha 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 ha. Suddenly. Stop. A cold voice suddenly sounded. Oh my God. Swishaoduo didn't even stop. He rushed into the air and rushed toward his home like a stream of light. Whose voice is that? I really didn't recognize it. You can't blame me. Bang. The person who came was so powerful that his foot landed on someone's stomach, kicking Swishaoduo down from the air and turning him into a shrimp. Ouch. Hurts. Swishaoduo was in pain and rolled on the ground. My intestines are broken. Ms. Mu. Spare me, I am seriously injured. Mu Yanyan fell from the sky, and without saying a word, she threw herself at his head and kicked his face. Is it familiar? This is called Dragon Gate Kick. I will punish you, you little bastard who ruined my reputation. Mu Yanyan's face was frosty and furious. She threw herself at Swishaoduo and kicked him from head to toe without any scruples. But there was one thing that had to be said. Swishaoduo didn't even care about his face, but he protected his crotch. Protecting a man was the most painful thing. You want to kick me? No way. Mu Yanyan did want to kick him at first, but later she was embarrassed. When Swishaoduo's whole body was swollen, she didn't have the heart to do it. Bastard! Mu Yanyan kicked him hard, picked up Swishaoduo and flew away. Even though he had already vented his anger, he still felt indescribably depressed. This was the heaviest punishment. She couldn't cripple him, let alone kill him. What else could she do? She couldn't do anything about it. This guy obviously knew this. He screamed miserably as if he had been tortured in the 18 levels of hell. He was as pitiful as he could be. But Mu Yanyan knew that she didn't even touch his bones. It was all physical pain. To think that this brat could shout so loudly. If he screamed a little later it would be better. Knock, knock, knock. Zhou Xiaoyan opened the door. Mu Yinyan threw Zhou Xiaoduo in. Your hero is back. She flashed away. Zhou Xiaoduo was swollen like a ball. He rolled into the living room. Nian Mao. Zhou Xiaoduo screamed, I'm going to be beaten to death. Hurry up and take a look. It hurts so much. You deserve it. Zhou Xiaoyan snorted and walked over with her little nose wrinkled. Seeing his miserable appearance, she finally couldn't bear it. She helped him to the sofa and used her qi to remove the bruises. On the way, my master has been talking about killing you. Zhou Xiaoyan pouted and said, It's me. I begged my master all the way to change it to just beating you. How are you going to thank me? Zhou Xiaoduo rolled his eyes and said, Silly girl. Even if you didn't beg her, she wouldn't be willing to kill me. You can't even see such a simple problem. You're so stupid. What did you call me? Zhou Xiaoyan suddenly stopped. The hand that was massaging suddenly pinched a piece of flesh. She raised her eyebrows. Silly girl. I mean, Sister Nian Nian. Zhou Xiaoduo immediately felt that something was wrong. Actually you don't know, but silly girl means the most beautiful girl in the desert. And a beauty. And that's what it means. I'll let you. Slap, 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 slap. Zhou Xiaoduo's old wounds hadn't healed and new ones were added. His whole body swelled again. Chapter 363. After a long time, Zhou Xiaoyan finally stopped. Zhou Xiaoduo lay on the sofa weakly, moaning and groaning like a dead dog. Zhou Xiaoyan was reading the newspaper and making tea as if nothing had happened, while carefully peeling melon seeds. Zhou Xiaoyan had a habit of peeling melon seeds one by one, and eating them in handfuls. It was said that eating melon seeds this way was more satisfying and satisfying. Why aren't mom and dad back yet? I can't stay at home for more than a few days. I have to report to Yunduan High School on the 1st of October. Zhou Xiaoduo stole the melon seeds that Zhou Xiaoyan had peeled and stuffed them into his mouth. He chewed and complained, they're really not worried at all. It's been so long and they're still not home. I think we should criticize them. Zhou Xiaoyan suddenly saw that the spot where she had peeled melon seeds on the table was clean. She suddenly became furious. Do you think you can change the topic of eating my melon seeds by talking about this? Fuck. You're dead. Zhou Xiaoduo screamed again. Of course, he had to say again because his body swelled up again. Zhou Xiaoyan beat Zhou Xiaoduo up and down on the sofa. After a long time, Zhou Xiaoduo sat cross-legged on the sofa in a posture that looked like a combination of an earthworm and a lizard. He drank tea, ate melon seeds, watched TV and chatted. He looked very comfortable from head to toe. Zhou Xiaoyan crossed her legs and peeled melon seeds. She carefully placed the peeled melon seeds on a small plate in front of her. She faced Zhou Xiaoduo directly and stared at him from time to time. Her face was full of vigilance. Previously, no matter if she was facing him from the side or from the back, she had been sneakily attacked several times. She could only defend herself if she faced him directly. Are you planning to go to Hidden Dragon? Zhou Xiaoyan asked. Yes. Zhou Xiaoduo replied. It's a place that has already been booked. But now is not the time. You have too many enemies in the Hidden Dragon Empire. Zhou Xiaoyan expressed his heartfelt worry. Fenghai City. Now to me, it is indeed a dragon's pool and a tiger's den. Danger at every step. Zhou Xiaoduo's eyes flickered as he said, but I'm really interested to see what this dragon's lair looks like and how dangerous it is. After talking about me, what about you? Zhou Xiaoduo asked. I originally planned not to go to Phoenix Cry. Zhou Xiaoyan said indifferently. They should be going to the Nine Heavens Pavilion. He went straight to work. The Nine Heavens Pavilion was a very mysterious organization. Once one entered the Nine Heavens Pavilion, one would need to go out on missions continuously, and then constantly improve oneself. The first, second, and third levels were the foundation where one would study and cultivate, and occasionally go out on missions. Then, as his cultivation increased, he would immediately advance to the next level. Once he defeated the Nine Heavens Pavilion, he would be able to be appointed to another position. But as for the specific inside story of this place, not to mention Zhou Xiaoduo, even Zhou Xiaoyan did not know. She only knew that it was very high and mighty. Zhou Xiaoduo looked at Zhou Xiaoyan's face, then threw out another fate point, and looked at Zhou Xiaoyan's future. He nodded with relief and said, You can go anywhere without worry. After all, your strength is here. It's enough. Actually, my condition is only that I'm qualified. But I heard that I'm the youngest woman to join the Nine Heavens Pavilion in many years. Zhou Xiaonian laughed. Of course, at this stage I'm only going to learn and train, and continue to sharpen myself. I'm still far from being able to go out on missions. Don't worry. Zhou Xiaoduo rolled his eyes and said, You don't have to be so humble. I believe you'll reach the standard in a few days. Oh right, don't be reluctant to use those top-grade jade of astral souls. Hurry up and use them up. Zhou Xiaonian said angrily, How can you use those treasures just like that? You should only use them when you need them. Zhou Xiaoduo rolled his eyes. No matter how precious they were basically used for cultivation. Why couldn't they be used? He rolled his eyes and said, Sister Xiaonian, how about I make a bet with you? Zhou Xiaonian said warily, What bet? If you can use up all your top-grade jade of astral souls within a year, I'll give you another 50,000. Yes, all of them are top-grade jade of astral souls. Zhou Xiaoduo said solemnly. 50,000? Zhou Xiaonian exclaimed, her eyes widening. What the hell? Did you dig up a paradise? There's no paradise. Zhou Xiaoduo said calmly. But I really did find a top-grade jade of astral souls mine. And I'm sure that I'm the only one in the whole continent who knows about it. Zhou Xiaonian's eyes lit up. Then we're rich. That's a fortune. That's what I said. Zhou Xiaoduo said proudly, Do you understand now? We don't lack this stuff, not at all. Things should be used to their fullest potential. If you use up all your top-grade jade of astral souls in a year, I'll give you another 50,000. If you use up all your jade of astral souls in a year, I'll give you another 200,000. According to my estimation, there's at least 1 million astral souls jade of astral souls in the mine. Zhou Xiaoduo spoke as if he was telling the truth and had a nose and eyes. Zhou Xiaonian knew that Zhou Xiaoduo was naughty, but he would never speak carelessly, especially when it came to such a big matter. She couldn't help but be skeptical. She pouted and said, If it's within a year. It's not impossible, but it's too wasteful. With Zhou Xiaoduo's current cultivation base, he was only at the early stage of the origin core realm. If he really absorbed all the top-grade star soul jades in his possession, he would probably be able to reach the peak of the origin core realm. Moreover, he would have to suppress the restlessness of his true origin several times to break through to the soul transformation realm. Let's not talk about whether it's possible or not. Zhou Xiaoduo said matter-of-factly, I have additional conditions. You can't always test me. This time it's my turn to test you. You can't just use up all the top-grade jade of astral souls. You have to suppress the turbulence of your true origin more than 15 times before you can receive the rest of the benefits. If you can't reach the standard, I'm sorry, but you won't get anything in the future. This is called opportunity and risk coexist. Do you understand? Zhou Xiaonian's face turned bitter. She didn't say anything for a long time. Suppressing 15 times. This standard wasn't just high, it was ridiculously high. However, she gritted her teeth and said, I want to try. I must reach this goal. Okay, it's settled then. Zhou Xiaoduo smiled and continued to drink water. His heart was as calm as a mountain and as steady as an old dog. Actually, he didn't find any astral souls jade mine. Nor did he have so many top-grade astral souls jade. He only said that to urge Zhou Xiaonian to hurry up and cultivate. Otherwise, with Zhou Xiaonian's frugal personality, she might have kept all the top-grade astral souls jade for him dead in Zhou Xiaoduo's heart. If there were such top-grade materials to help with cultivation, why wouldn't he use them immediately? Only when his strength increased would they belong to him. However, if he left the spiritual jades in the space ring, he wouldn't know who he was saving them for. They might not really belong to him. It was a pity that Zhou Xiaoduo was still at the innate realm, and couldn't bear the violent spiritual energy of the top-grade astral souls jade. Otherwise, he would have used them long ago. When he broke through the embryonic breathing realm, Zhou Xiaoduo wouldn't hesitate to use them on the first day of the breakthrough. When the time came, Zhou Xiaonian would ask him, Where are the 50,000 pieces of top-grade astral souls jade? Zhou Xiaoduo could also say righteously, Sigh, the jade mine was discovered by the country, and was taken over by the country. I didn't even get a single piece of it. I'm still feeling sad, and you still want to poke at my sore spot. It's too difficult for me. With one sentence he could push all the blame away. He might even be comforted. Otherwise, Zhuo Xiaonian most likely wouldn't use them. When Zhuo Xiaonian came to settle the score with him, it would all become her own strength. When that time came, at most he would be beaten up. What's the big deal? What's the big deal? Don't tell me she's going to rape me? Humph. I'm not afraid of Zhuo Xiaoduo. Seeing that it was already past midnight, the two of them were still wide awake. They chatted casually, and the atmosphere was extremely quiet, warm and peaceful. He felt that such time and such an atmosphere were better the longer it lasted. He couldn't feel the passage of time at all. Shadow. Zhuo Xiaonian seemed to have thought of something. Her face was slightly red, and she said, "Look at me." "Look at you?" Zhuo Xiaoduo turned his head suspiciously. "Look at what?" Zhuo Xiaonian stood up and walked a few steps. She was slim and graceful and said, "Do I look good like this?" "Yes, yes, yes. It's not just good looking. It's simply pleasing to the eye. It's too pleasing to the eye." Zhuo Xiaoduo was about to salivate. His mind was suddenly filled with indescribable emotions. What does this mean? Does it feel like we're going to part ways? So Nian Cat wants to seduce me? With this thought, Zhuo Xiaoduo's flaming sun scripture suddenly activated on its own. Come on. Come and seduce me. I'll definitely pretend to be reserved for 3 seconds, no more. No, what's there to be reserved for? I'll definitely be seduced by you at the first moment. I've always liked beauty. My willpower isn't good. I'll go up as soon as you seduce me. Zhuo Xiaoduo's mind was filled with 180 ideas, 30 to 40 postures, and half a hard disk's worth of knowledge, rushed into his mind in an instant. His eyes lit up, and he did not even bother to hide his desire. However, Zhuo Xiaonian obviously didn't follow Zhuo Xiaoduo's thoughts. She turned around and said, "How about this?" She increased her height by 2 centimeters according to the ratio. She was originally 1.73 meters tall, but now she was 1.75 meters tall. However, Zhuo Xiaoduo didn't notice anything. He just nodded foolishly, and his saliva drew a parabola as he nodded. Good, good, good. How about this? She went from 1.75 meters to 1.78 meters. Good, good, good. Of these 3 states, which one is better looking? Which is the best? Zhuo Xiaonian asked expectantly. 3 kinds? Zhuo Xiaoduo was dumbfounded. His eyes were full of confusion. Why? 3? What 3? What does that mean? Chapter 364. Which 3? That's right. Which one is the most beautiful? Zhuo Xiaonian asked modestly. She rolled her eyes and looked very shy. Humph, dog, I'm choosing my highest height and body proportion according to your taste. As long as you choose, I'll take the look-preserving pill based on your choice. What 3? What 3? Zhuo Xiaoduo felt that he should ask if he didn't understand, so he asked humbly. You didn't see? You didn't see? Zhuo Xiaonian was confused by Zhuo Xiaoduo's question. See what? Zhuo Xiaoduo tried to think and asked carefully, breasts? Or buttocks? This. What do you want me to see? Da. Zhuo Xiaonian was stunned, and then she felt a rush of anger. She gritted her teeth and said, "Then what did you see just now?" "I saw." Zhuo Xiaoduo was confused and felt that something was wrong. He scratched his head and said, What do you want me to see?" Bang! A pillow hit Zhuo Xiaoduo's face. Then the heavy punches and kicks landed heavily on Zhuo Xiaoduo's body like the wind and rain had never been so heavy before. After a while, the wind and rain finally stopped. With a bang, the door closed. Zhuo Xiaonian went back to her room angrily. The loud sound of the door closing almost shook the chandelier off the ceiling. Zhuo Xiaoduo was on the verge of death. His head was swollen and his body was in pain as he laid on the sofa. His eyes were spinning and he was completely dumbfounded. Just now. What happened? Zhuo Xiaoduo didn't see it at all. He felt that he had been wrong to the extreme. Didn't you want to seduce me? Zhuo Xiaoduo felt that he was innocent and sad. What exactly was going on now? Woman, is your name a mystery? It was around 5 o'clock in the morning. Gu Yuanhang, who had been removed from the Longhu list judge's seat on the spot, finally returned to the entrance of Shangjing City with wounds all over his body. This journey back home was simply bizarre to the extreme. As soon as he left the territory of South G City and stepped into the wasteland, someone came to intercept him. It was a blue-robed woman who chased after him with all her might. Finally, everyone's true strength was about the same, and they were evenly matched. At first, he was a little flustered, but later, he steadied himself and was fine. But then 2 women and a man charged out, and all of them chased after him and attacked him fiercely, as if they were irreconcilable enemies. Gu Yuanhang knew that he was no match for them and fled for his life. However, the movement techniques of these 3 women were all faster than his. Escape, there was no way he could escape. Left with no other choice, Gu Yuanhang forced his way out of the encirclement and returned to South G City. There were countless teachers from the higher martial academy gathered in South G City, so naturally, he didn't have to worry about being hunted down. Gu Yuanhang's wish came true. As he fled back to South G City, the 3 women disappeared. As expected, they didn't continue to chase after him. Gu Yuanhang, who didn't dare to take the normal route, went straight to the military and used his connections to find a small plane to send him back. However, before he could fly out of the central plains, a magnificent sword light directly sliced off one of the wings of the plane. Gu Yuanhang used all his strength to carry the plane all the way to Fenghai Airport. Only then was he able to escape. The other party was helping him, and he couldn't let them lose a plane for no reason. Not to mention there was also a pilot. Gu Yuanhang still had this bit of integrity. But was he taking the plane or was the plane taking him? The rest of the journey was uneventful. When he was about to reach Shangjing City, and when Gu Yuanhang was about to let down his guard, he was intercepted again. This time it was a black-robed man who attacked him, and he immediately used extreme moves to kill him. From the beginning to the end, he didn't say a word. He fought with Gu Yuanhang for a full 2 hours, until both of them were covered in wounds and bruises. Only then did he retreat. During this time, Gu Yuanhang didn't know how many times he shouted, "Who are you? Why?" and so on and so forth. However, the other party really didn't say a word from the beginning to the end. This whole journey made Gu Yuanhang feel like a rat crossing the street. Finally, he reached Shangjing. He could breathe a sigh of relief. Gu Yuanhang entered Shangjing and went straight to Yunduan High School. The next day, Phoenix City No. 2 High School held a grand ceremony. The 6 students of Phoenix City No. 2 High School formed a team to compete in the Central Plains Longhu ranking and bring back the champion for Phoenix City No. 2 High School. This was the first time since the establishment of No. 2 High School. The champion of the Central Plains Longhu ranking. Almost all of the influential people in Phoenix City had come. Those who didn't come or weren't invited were just people who weren't qualified to attend the meeting. Today was also the graduation ceremony of Phoenix City No. 2 High School. Majestic music floated back and forth in the sky above No. 2 High School. Yuanyue's huge portrait stood tall in front of the school building. All the teachers and students bowed in unison. "Your wish, we've helped you to fulfill one. As for the other wishes, we're still working hard. After that, we'll definitely fulfill your wish and fulfill it. Teacher, don't worry. We, the teachers and students of No. 2 High School, will definitely not disappoint you." After that, the graduation certificate of No. 2 High School was given to all the students who had reached the innate realm. After that, a few thick stacks of admission notices were taken out. These were the admission notices issued by all the martial arts academies before the college entrance exam. Now, all of them had been sent to the school. All the students whose names were read came up one by one to collect and go to different places. As for Zuoxiao Duo and the others who participated in the competition, they didn't need to participate in the so-called college entrance exam. In this Longhu ranking competition, all the students who participated in it had the right to be admitted. The admission notices were in their pockets. Among the 237 innate realm students in our school, 177 of them were promoted to the martial arts academies they wanted. Li Changjiang spoke on behalf of the school leaders. The remaining 54 students have 3 choices. The first is to go to a remote vocational school. The second is to join the army and go to the Sun Moon Pass. As for the third, they can choose to repeat their year in No. 2 High School and take the college entrance exam again next year. Yes, as long as the students reach the innate realm, The government wouldn't let them wander about freely in society. This was because this group of people was too harmful to ordinary people. Once they went berserk, they would cause terrible harm and losses. They could either go for vocational training and take part in various martial arts jobs in the future or join the army. Of course, they could also choose to repeat their year. However, the price for repeating their year was extremely high. Because they had reached the innate realm and met the requirements, but because they weren't strong enough, no martial arts academies were willing to accept them. Therefore, even if they repeated their year, they still might not have enough strength to enter the martial arts academies. At the same time, if the students were older than 35 years old, the martial arts academies wouldn't accept them. Li Changjiang spoke passionately and at length. Zhou Xiaoduo nodded sleepily below the stage. It wasn't that he was tired, but Zhou Xiaoduo had this problem. He would doze off when he was in a meeting and listening to the report. But soon Zhou Xiaoduo stopped dozing off because the process had reached the stage where the focus was to commend Zhou Xiaoduo and the other 5. After that, it was time for all the graduating students to take a group photo as a souvenir. Zhou Xiaoduo and the other 5 were in the center position, which was the so-called C position. When the shutter was pressed, it happened that Li Chenglong was making a face at Li Changming. His teeth were as long as fangs. Click. The picture froze. Although a few more photos were taken consecutively, and there was no lack of normal photos in the end, everyone unanimously decided to keep the normal photo and the one with the teeth. Because it was simply too special, too unforgettable. Li Chenglong's tooth was really a big highlight. It directly stole the limelight from Zhou Xiaoduo, who was standing in the center. Throughout the whole picture, those who got their hands on it didn't need to look at it carefully. At a glance, they could see that occupying the most central position was that long fangs. This photo became Li Chenglong's dark history. It couldn't be any darker than ink. The graduating students held their graduation certificates and faced the big banner. Everyone's tears fell like rain for a long time. Second high school welcomes you back forever. No matter how far you go, don't forget that this is the place where your dreams began. Along with He Yuanyue's words, the banner made everyone's heart surge in an instant. 10 days off. Li Changjiang announced. In the next 10 days, the teachers of the innate graduating class can accept meals. It's not considered a violation of discipline. The conference was over. Hu Ruoyun quietly went to the top floor alone. In what used to be He Yuanyue's office, she closed the door and sat inside quietly, as if she could still feel He Yuanyue's lingering scent. Old principal, another batch of children had graduated. Why does my heart feel like it's half empty all of a sudden? Especially Xiao Duo. He has also graduated. Every year at this time, I have to send away a batch of students that I've poured my heart and soul into. This kind of parting is really unbearable. No wonder you said that as a teacher. If you put your heart into the students, you'll age very quickly. But it's also very worth it. Whether it's worth it or not, I haven't personally experienced it yet. But I'm really aging very quickly. Every year I have to send away a batch of my heart and soul. This bunch of heartless little fellows, I don't know how many of them will remember to come back and visit me. Perhaps many people will never experience it in their lives, standing in front of the floor-to-ceiling window, watching countless children walk out in groups, leaving the place where they had studied for so many years. Most of them were full of smiles, talking to each other, and telling each other farewell words. Their faces were full of longing for the future. Second high school's campus was going to be empty for a while again. Teacher Hu? Teacher Hu? A voice suddenly sounded outside the door. It was Zhou Xiaoduo's voice. Hu Ruoyun quickly opened the door and saw Zhou Xiaoduo and the other 5 people standing outside the door neatly, with bright smiles on their faces, begging for monthly votes and recommendation votes. Chapter 365. Why haven't you left yet? Hu Ruoyun asked in surprise. She was pleasantly surprised. There are 6 of us. Zhou Xiaoduo giggled and said, it seems like we haven't done the 3 touches and 5 comments for the innate stage. Sigh. Look at my memory. Hu Ruoyun slapped her forehead. Qin Fongyang was supposed to be in charge of the 3 touches and 5 comments for Zhou Xiaoduo and the others. Wind Spirit's meridians, He Yuanyue's death, and Qin Fongyang's departure. Then the Longhu ranking tournament was approaching. Swixiao Duo and the others had been preparing for the tournament wholeheartedly until today. He had been so busy until now that he had completely forgotten about this matter. It's fine. Everything has been settled. I'll call your principal later, and will personally conduct the comments for you, Hu Ruoyun said. Also, we'd like to invite you, Principal Li, Teacher Luo, and the others, for dinner tonight, Swixiao Duo said. The 6 of them bowed together. Teacher, please do us the honor. Hu Ruoyun only felt a warm current rush up her body, and she subconsciously responded. Okay. As she spoke, she made a phone call. Fortunately, Li Changjiang had already arranged his schedule for today's graduation ceremony. He did not make any other arrangements, so it was settled with a phone call. However, Luo Lai had already been dragged away by the other students. She wondered if he was fated to treat her today. I'll arrange for the Tower of Astral Souls to conduct the 3 touches and 5 comments for you. The 3rd touch. 10 minutes later. The number 2 high school campus was very empty. Most of the students and teachers had already left. Li Changjiang and Hu Ruoyun sent Swixiao Duo and the others to the Tower of Astral Souls again. The couple was still watching the surveillance cameras in the office. I believe that the others will be fine. I just don't know if Swixiao Duo will cause any trouble this time. When Hu Ruoyun thought of this, she felt a headache coming on. The first time was the devil's heart of heterodoxy. The second time was the castration of lack of desire. 2 consecutive abnormal occurrences had already caused Hu Ruoyun to feel fear in her heart. He really didn't know what kind of strange words he would come up with this time. The content of the trial this time was still very simple. In the fantasy realm, the trial taker would meet a hero from the Umno Alliance. At first, the trial taker would not know that the hero was a member of the Umno Alliance. The trial taker would fight side by side with the hero and train along the way. They would fight star beasts, trample on villains, fight injustice, and roam the world, treating each other with sincerity, congenial in spirit, and making friends with each other. The other party's personality and temper could be said to be the type that the participants admired and liked the most. After interacting with each other for a period of time, there was nothing that they didn't talk about. Taking care of you in every possible way is secondary. Usually when we exchange pointers and drink together, we are very close, even more like brothers. After the trial, other than Swixiao Duo, Long Yuxing and the other 4 people, one after the other, could not help but become sworn brothers with the other party. Yes, Wan Lixio met a sister and also became sworn brothers. The sisterly relationship was very deep, and could not be compared to the so-called best friends. And as time went on, the other party's identity as a member of the Umno Alliance was finally exposed. This was a very cruel setting. The brother who treated each other with sincerity and congenial in spirit was a member of the Umno Alliance. The 2 sides were naturally on opposite sides and would not rest until one of them was dead. When the situation came to a head, would you kill him? When the other party completed the Umno Alliance's mission and was chased by people on your side, when he came to your side with his dying breath, would you kill him? He was lying in front of you. You did not need to use any strength, just a palm or a kick, and you could easily end his life. However, as long as you wanted to, you could save him. The key was how you would choose. Yu Moyan and Li Chenglong made their choice the fastest. The 2 of them did not hesitate and directly killed the other party. You are a member of the Umno Alliance. You have completed the Umno Alliance's mission and caused a lot of damage to our side. This time, in front of the big picture, you must kill him. Wan Lixio, Long Yuxing and Li Zhongming hesitated for a long time before they decided to make their move. When they made their move, their faces were full of tears and they kept saying sorry. The 5 of them made their own choices and ended the trial in either a short or long time. Li Chenglong and Yu Moyan were both a grade. Long Yuxing, Wan Lixio and Li Zhongming's evaluation was 1 grade lower, B grade. As for Zhuoxiaoduo's side, it was just as Hu Ruoyun had thought. When Long Yuxing and the others became sworn brothers with this person, Swixiao Duo did not choose to become sworn brothers with him. Why did he choose to become sworn brothers? Swixiao Duo would not make such a choice. This person was not bad and could be friends with him. However, that was all. Then the 2 of them went through life and death together. They went through difficulties and experienced thousands of mountains and rivers together. Their friendship became deeper. However, it was inevitable that the other party was exposed in front of Swixiao Duo. He was dying and fell in front of Swixiao Duo. At this moment, Hu Ruoyan's heart was in her mouth. Zhuoxiaoduo, this is a matter of position. Don't make a mistake in such a big matter. You are a member of the UMNO alliance? Zhuoxiaoduo was shocked. His face was full of disbelief. Brother, I am sorry. That person smiled bitterly. I was chased to this place and I am injured. However, I am still alive. I can't escape. Xiao Duo, you might as well kill me or hand me over. I can give you a future. I lied to you. However, when I was with you there was no hypocrisy. I only treated you with sincerity. In my heart I really treat you as a brother. If I can use my useless life to exchange for a contribution for my brother, it will be worth it. That person's mouth was bleeding. He murmured, don't kill me with your hands. If you kill me, you will leave a soul mark. The other side will take revenge on you. I don't want to see you die, especially because of me. Take care. He closed his eyes and waited. He waited for the last moment to come. What are you talking about? Zhuoxiaoduo's face was full of loyalty. We are brothers. Even if we become enemies in the future, we will only fight with real swords and spears on the battlefield. If I kill you like this, how can it be considered as a brother? Hu Ruoyan sighed deeply. She only felt a splitting headache. Why did this bastard always cause trouble at the most critical moment? Could it be that your brain circuit is really very different from a normal person's? 108,000 of them was there. Looking at the screens, Zhuoxiaoduo tried his best to heal his brother's injuries, treat his illness, hide the truth and ensure his safety. After that, he even escorted him all the way and helped him escape. That person was so touched that he could not feel his blood boiling. Before they parted, Zhuoxiaoduo took out pills and jade of astral souls. He filled up a space ring and gave it to him. Brother, I don't have much to say. This is all I can do. There is some money, emergency food and drinks, and some jade of astral souls. Take it. How can I take it? If I take it all, what will you use? Aya, why are you being so polite with me at this critical moment? Zhuoxiaoduo said angrily, now you are completely exposed. Every step you take is dangerous. Wait for me to think of a way to send you to the border. After that, you will have to rely on yourself. Hurry up and go back. Brother, you are taking too big a risk by doing this. Your life is in danger and you will bear a bad name for the rest of your life. I already said that we are brothers. Why are you still talking about this? Zhuoxiaoduo confided in him. It's rare that you and I can treat each other with sincerity. Once we part, I'm afraid we won't see each other again. How about you and I swear to the heavens that we'll be sworn brothers? Good. However, Xiaoduo, your future is bound to be very dangerous. I am dragging you down. Let's not talk about this. The two of them used the soil as incense and kowtowed to the heavens. They were both overwhelmed with emotions and felt their blood boiling. Then, unexpectedly, when they were escaping to the border, they were discovered by the border guards. Seeing that there was no hope of escaping, Zhuoxiaoduo could not help but help. After a fierce battle, they saved the man and escaped to the border. However, Zhuoxiaoduo's identity was completely exposed. The other side even called out Zhuoxiaoduo's name clearly. The two of them crossed the border and sat in a dense forest. Both of them looked gloomy. Now, it is your turn to not be able to go back. It's okay. Just hide your identity. The world is big. There is no place for you to hide. No, it is too dangerous. From the day I decided to save you, I was already mentally prepared. Now my prediction has come true. Why don't you come with me? No. How can I go to your side? Zhuoxiaoduo did not even think about it. He shook his head like a rattle drum. Do you want to go back and die? I might not die if I go back. I just have to give up my original identity. But how can I watch you go back like this? How can I be at ease? That is my life. Zhuoxiaoduo stood up and waved his hand. Brother, take care. Just as he was about to leave, bang. The man knocked Zhuoxiaoduo unconscious and murmured, You sent me out from tens of thousands of miles away. How can I watch such a brother go back and die? Even if you hate me, you can't go back. He held Zhuoxiaoduo's body and disappeared into the UMNO alliance. The scene froze. The trial ended. Li Changjiang and Hu Ruoyan were at a loss. They were in disbelief and disbelief. What the fuck? Are you developing your own plot? What kind of development is this? Hu Ruoyan was on the verge of going crazy. Why is there nothing below? What happened next? Li Changjiang was speechless. He has already gone out. What else can there be? Xiao Duo must have gone undercover. But if it ends like this, won't it make him a traitor? Will the evaluation still be fair? Hu Ruoyan said anxiously. Li Changjiang thought. How can you be sure that he went undercover? Nothing is seen now. How do you know what will happen next? But there was nothing after that. This was the most maddening thing. The couple looked at the screen anxiously. They were really not sure what the evaluation would be this time. Chapter 366. At this moment, Hu Ruoyan felt a little hopeless. He did not differentiate between friend and foe, and his stance was unclear. He spared no effort to help the enemy escape. This guy was really after a long time. Even Zhuo Duo and the others had finished the trial and gathered at the entrance of the principal's office to wait. However, the evaluation was still not out. After a long time, the screen finally began to rotate. Hu Ruoyan and Li Changjiang held their breaths at the same time. They waited, watched, and waited for the results to come. Finally, after a while, the final evaluation was out. When Hu Ruoyan and Li Changjiang saw the evaluation, they were stunned. They still found it unbelievable, and unimaginable. That was because the evaluation on the screen was 4 question marks. There was not even a word, let alone an A or B grade. There were only 4 question marks. At this moment, whether it was Li Changjiang or Hu Ruoyan, their real thoughts were exactly the same as the evaluation on the screen. It was not fake at all. Perhaps the husband and wife could add a few more question marks. What kind of evaluation was this? Did this mean that even the system did not know how to evaluate? The husband and wife looked at each other and saw the confusion in each other's eyes. What's going on? What kind of evaluation is this? Hu Ruoyan pointed at the 4 question marks on the screen and asked. Li Changjiang shook his head slowly. I don't know either. This kind of thing was really unheard of in so many years. Hu Ruoyan went to open the door. At a glance, Zhuo Duo was standing obediently at the door. His face was simple and honest. Teacher, let's go for dinner? It's already 6 o'clock in the evening. Hu Ruoyan sighed helplessly. She wanted to say something, but in the end she did not open her mouth. She patted Zhuo Duo's shoulder and said, the evaluation is good. Throughout history it's unprecedented. Zhuo Duo had an honest look on his face. He said shyly, it's all thanks to teacher who's good teaching. Hu Ruoyan finally said unhappily, I didn't teach you those tricks. I don't dare to take the credit. Zhuo Duo scratched his head innocently, as if he did not know what the problem was. None of the parents attended the dinner that night. Zhuo Duo's parents were not at home, but the other 5 had no intention of letting their parents come. What are you doing here? You don't even know each other. You're just here to thank me. How hypocritical. Don't come. You'll only make the atmosphere awkward. Wan Lixio directly called her father and said, we're thanking the teacher out of gratitude. We're too embarrassed to say anything when you guys come, and the teacher is too embarrassed to say anything. You guys are too embarrassed to leave. To prevent everyone from being embarrassed, it's better if you don't come. However, there were only 6 children at the dinner table with Hu Ruoyan and her husband, but 4 pairs were drunk. Hu Ruoyan lost her composure and burst into tears in the end. On the one hand, she was distressed by Zhuo Duo's evaluation. On the other hand, she was really reluctant. Hu Ruoyan was really reluctant to part with these children, especially Zhuo Duo. She watched the children finally grow up and go to a higher school. Although she knew that she should be happy for them, this reluctance to part with them kept gushing out from her heart, making her feel inexplicably uncomfortable. She hugged Zhuo Duo and cried a lot, saying a lot. You must come back to visit me when you have time. I miss you. Finally, they parted ways. Li Changjiang took a taxi with Hu Ruoyan, who had already fallen asleep. When they reached home, Hu Ruoyan miraculously woke up. You didn't fall asleep? Li Changjiang asked in surprise. How can I really fall asleep? Hu Ruoyan said slowly, it's just that I really couldn't control my emotions and made the atmosphere sad. They have a bright future ahead of them. It's not good to make the atmosphere too sad. Li Changjiang sighed softly. Geniuses. Come, take a look at what the students gave you, Li Changjiang said. I don't want to look. Hu Ruoyun sighed. Take a look. These are from Wanli Xiao. These are spirit herbs that nourish one's origin. They're all very rare and precious. This is from Li Chenglong. It's a landscape painting. This is from Yu Moyan. It's a decoration he made himself. Li Changjiang explained the items one by one as he tidied them up. Hu Ruoyun, on the other hand, was silent. This is from Zuoxiaoduo. Li Changjiang had just finished speaking when Hu Ruoyun suddenly turned her head, her eyes sparkling. Fuck. Li Changjiang had just taken it out when he exclaimed in surprise. These are black stones for teacher Hu. In a small bag there were 50 pieces of black stones. These are supreme grade jade of astral souls. Li Changjiang was stunned. Li Changjiang had only seen this kind of supreme grade jade of astral souls once in his life. It was during a banquet when the host took it out to show off. This thing was really too rare and too hard to come by. Any piece of supreme grade jade of astral souls would be sold for a sky-high price. It was a price that could not be bought even if one had the money. Zuoxiaoduo actually gave 50 of them to Hu Ruoyun at once. This is too extravagant. Hu Ruoyun was anxious. How can we accept this? Hurry up and return it tomorrow. These materials will delay this child's cultivation by a lot. Li Changjiang also nodded. It's indeed too expensive. I'll go look for her tomorrow. The next day, Li Changjiang went to look for Zuoxiaoduo early in the morning. Zuoxiaoduo's attitude was firm. Principal, you know that I'm a very stingy person. In my life, I can't say that I'm the only one who would take the initiative to give a gift to someone for free. Perhaps from now until the day I die of old age, there will only be a few people who will do so. But teacher Hu is worth anything for me to give her. If you don't accept it, you don't have to return it to me. You can just throw it on the street. I don't know if someone will pick it up. Li Changjiang saw Zuoxiaoduo's attitude. What could he do? He could only take it back. Please tell teacher Hu that these have to be used. The next time I visit her, if there are any leftovers, I'll be sad. I'll have to give her more. Zuoxiaoduo giggled. Li Changjiang took the bag of black stones home. Naturally, Hu Ruoyun complained to him. But after passing on Zuoxiaoduo's words, Hu Ruoyun didn't say anything. After a long time she said softly, Xiaoduo is a good boy. I really envy his parents for having such a good child. From the second day onwards, Zuoxiaoduo didn't slack off at all. He continued to cultivate as if his life depended on it. Zuoxiaoyan accompanied him. The two of them looked for a secluded place to cultivate day and night. They wanted to make every effort to improve themselves in the remaining time. After continuously cultivating as if his life depended on it, Zuoxiaoduo found that he had broken through the bottleneck of his strength. This discovery made Zuoxiaoduo ecstatic. Therefore he worked even harder and increased the weight he carried. Zuoxiaoyan was his sparring partner. Once again she began to find him. In the blink of an eye more than 10 days had passed. 3 days later, they would set off for Hidden Dragon. Coincidentally, Zuoxiaoyan would also set off 3 days later to report to the Nine Heavens Pavilion. However, Zuochonglu and Wu Yuding still hadn't sent back any news. They couldn't get through to their phones either. The two of them couldn't help but feel anxious. What was going on? On this night, the two of them returned home exhausted. Suddenly, they saw from afar that the lights in their house were on. For a moment, a warm current surged from the bottom of their hearts. It was a long-lost feeling. Previously, when their parents were at home, they would come home late every day. They didn't feel anything special when they saw the lights. But now, after such a long time, they suddenly saw the lights in their house on again. Their entire hearts were about to melt. Ouch! Ah, yeah. The siblings rushed up the stairs as if they had gone mad. Their exhaustion seemed to have completely disappeared at that moment. Ah, dad. Zuoxiaoduo pushed the door open and rushed in, laughing loudly. Zuochonglu looked up from the sofa with a smile. Wu Yuding walked out of the kitchen. Zuoxiaoduo rushed over and hugged Wu Yuding, laughing loudly. Then he picked up his mother and spun her around. Mom, I missed you so much. As he said that, his eyes turned red. Zhuanglu's eyes widened as he withdrew his hand. This guy rushed all the way home calling for dad. But in the end he went to hug mom. What about me? Xiaonian came in panting. Dad! Zhuanglu finally found comfort. My daughter is still the best. On the other side, Wu Yuding was dizzy from being spun around by Duo. She hit him angrily. Hurry up and put me down. You're already so old and as tall as your dad. Why are you still so childish? I won't put you down. I won't put you down. Duo said, put me down. You're abandoning us to play by yourself again. Ha ha ha, not this time. After being excited for a long time, the family sat down and chatted slowly. Dad, Mom, where have you been all this time? Why were you gone for so long? You even missed our graduation ceremony? Duo asked impatiently. Well, we went to visit some old friends. Chonglu smiled and said, we also took a look at the scenery while we were at it. He did not explain in detail. Duo and Xiaonian were very dissatisfied, especially Duo. Their parents missed the Longhu list tournament, but why didn't they come back 3 or 5 days earlier when they knew that their graduation was imminent? Wouldn't they have made it in time? Tell me in detail. Xiaonian complained. You don't know each other. It's useless to tell you. Chonglu smiled helplessly. How about you two? Did you break through? Did it go well? Wu Yuding rolled her eyes silently at the side. Chonglu's words were extremely hypocritical. The two of them confirmed the success of the Phoenix Pulse spirit outside before they left. Along the way, watching Xiaoduo's competition live on the internet had become their routine homework. Wu Yuding even found her daughter from the spectator stand. Zhuanglu knew Duo and Xiaonian better than they knew themselves. Zhuanglu didn't even blush when he asked this question. Chapter 367. However, this question directly opened up the conversation between Xiaonian and Duo. The siblings scrambled to report what had happened during this period of time, their gains and so on. Wu Yuding had finished cooking, serving the wine, eating, drinking and cleaning up the table, but the two of them were still talking. Even Xiaonian, who had always been quiet, became a chatterbox this time. However, Chonglu and Wu Yuding did not look impatient at all. They listened with great interest and always had gentle smiles on their faces. They were the best listeners. It was impossible to tell that they understood everything. Their faces were full of enthusiasm and seriousness. His son and daughter had skipped the most difficult and dangerous times of many things. It was as if everything was a matter of course. Chonglu and Wu Yuding felt the feelings of their children. Their hearts were very warm. It was not easy to have children. Only Xiaoduo's competition was directly praised to the sky by Duo. It was so boastful that no one could look at it directly. They talked until they had to report to school and then stopped. Are we leaving in 3 days? In the end, Wu Yuding finally asked, her face revealing a strong sense of reluctance. Duo actively encouraged, Dad, Mom, we are both leaving. Why are you staying here? Why don't you go to Fenghai with me? We are rich now. Let's go there and buy a new house and settle down. Our family is still together. How good is that? Chonglu laughed. Do you think you can stay in Fenghai forever? After you transfer from Fenghai to Shangjing, we will go there to buy a house and settle down. Then, when you are successful in your cultivation and go to Sun and Moon Pass, we will settle down there. Duo coughed and said, as long as our family is not separated, it is not a big deal. It is just buying a few more houses. Your son is now good at making money. It is not a big deal to buy a few houses. Wu Yuding smiled. We are not going anywhere. We will wait for you in Phoenix City. Mom. Duo acted like a spoiled child. But it was useless. He could only persuade Xiaonian, Sister Nian, talk to our parents. Xiaonian had been looking at Chonglu and Wu Yuding. Her face flashed with worry. Suddenly she asked with red eyes, Dad, Mom, why do you look so much older after coming back this time? Duo was stunned when he heard this. Taking a closer look, he saw that Chonglu and Wu Yuding's faces were really haggard, and there were sporadic white hairs on their temples. This was a big change for Chonglu and his wife. Xiaoduo's heart shook as he asked, Dad, Mom, what's going on? How did this happen? Zhuochanglu and Wu Yuting looked at each other and said, "You have grown up. Of course we are old. If we don't age, won't we become monsters?" "But it shouldn't be so fast." Zhuoxiaoduo said anxiously, "What is going on? Does it have anything to do with your background and background? You said that we have grown up. Now, can you tell us the whole story?" Wu Yuting smiled and stroked Zhuoxiaoduo's head. She said, "Don't worry. It's really okay. This situation is good for us. We can return to the state of cultivation. The faster we get old, the better." What Wu Yuting said was the truth, but it didn't sound like it was the case. Is there such a strange cultivation method in the world? Zhuoxiaoduo expressed his doubts. There are all kinds of strange cultivation methods in the world. You have only seen a few of them. Zhuochanglu smiled and said, "In short, you can rest assured. Don't worry about us." Zhuoxiaonian thought for a long time and said, "Dad, Mom, are you experiencing the world of mortals?" Zhuochanglu's eyes narrowed and said, "It seems that Nianer knows a lot. She even knows about experiencing the world of mortals. Well, that's more or less what I mean." Although there were still 2 levels of difference, Zhuochanglu already felt that his daughter was very knowledgeable. Zhuoxiaonian suddenly understood and said, "I have read the records of the sect. Back then, only the founder of the sect had reached this step." Zhuoxiaoduo was confused. "What is experiencing the world of mortals?" "You don't have to ask. At your current level, the less you know, the better." Zhuoxiaonian's previous elegant appearance disappeared. She was radiant and looked like a different person. Zhuoxiaoduo was even more confused. There were 4 people in the family, but now 3 of them knew. Was it really okay to hide it from me? "Don't worry about us in the future, Dad, Mom," Zhuoxiaonian said gently. "The first thing to do when experiencing the world of mortals is to not have too many ties. The 2 uncles who were called here before already had a great impact." Zhuochanglu comforted him and said, "Experience in the world of mortals. The true meaning and the fetters are not something that can be explained in a few words. You only need to know that your mother and I will be fine as long as you 2 are fine. Experience in the world of mortals is nothing compared to the 2 of you." After saying that, he smiled faintly. Wu Yuting thought for a while and said, "But speaking of moving, we really have to move. This place is no longer suitable for living. The 2 of you have been exposed so much this time. So many people have said that you are the family of geniuses. We have chosen a house in King Qi's tomb. When you leave, your dad and I will move there." Wu Yuting said, "But we will also keep the house here. You 2 have earned so much money. Your dad and I will enjoy ourselves and spend some money. Haha." "King Qi's tomb?" Zhuoxiaoduo thought for a while and said, "That place is more remote." "It's okay. We just want some peace and quiet." Wu Yuting smiled faintly. Zhuoxiaonian and Zhuoxiaoduo were deep in thought. Both of them didn't believe that it was just a peaceful place. They had a feeling that there was something going on there. But their parents didn't want to talk about it. From the next day onwards, Zhuoxiaoduo didn't go out to practice. Instead, he stayed at home with Zhuochanglu and Wu Yuting. He wanted to spend more time with his parents. But on the afternoon of this day, Zhuoxiaoduo was chased out. "Why are you so annoying now?" Wu Yuting looked at him with disdain. "Are you going to clean up the basin that was knocked over? Get out and play. It's really annoying." Zhuochanglu looked helpless. "Why are you interfering when I'm making tea? You don't know anything. Look at how you're ruining my good tea. I'm going to college soon. You don't want to go to Fenghai, so I want to spend more time with you in these last few days." Zhuoxiaoduo looked wronged. Go, go, go. We don't want you to accompany us." The husband and wife drove Zhuoxiaoduo out as if they were chasing a duck. Then they pulled open the door to Zhuoxiaonian and drove Zhuoxiaonian out too. "Let's go out together. Don't come back until dinner time. So annoying." After they left the house, the siblings looked at each other. They missed each other so much after not seeing each other for a month. They were together for less than 2 days and they were so annoyed. "Sai, let's go practice." On the 3rd day, the 2 were still chased out to practice. They only had dinner as a family in the evening. "You have rings so you can carry anything with you. You're also very rich, so you don't need to pay for your travel and living expenses." Zhuochanglu held a wine glass. "After this last meal, get out of here tomorrow morning. Come back when you're on vacation. Don't think about going home every day and be childish. Shda. Zhuo and Zhuo pouted. Sigh, I've read so many articles and novels about being reluctant to part with her. But it turns out that they're all lies. Humph. The siblings were in a bad mood. That night, they got together in a room and talked for the whole night, but they were still reluctant to leave. In the end, Zhuo sneakily attacked and was beaten up by Zhuo at the next morning. When Zhuo woke up, Zhuo was already gone. Where's Nian Mao? Your sister Nian has already left. Wu Yuding brought out breakfast. She's probably crying on the way. She didn't even dare to eat breakfast. Damn, is that necessary? Zhuo ate a belly full. Patting his stomach, he said, it's delicious. Mom, Dad, I'm leaving too. I'll come back to see you after my vacation. Wu Yuding and Zhuo didn't even raise their heads. They waved their hands as if they were shooing flies away. Go, go, go. Go quickly. Zhuo laughed, kissed Wu Yuding on the cheek, and jumped out of the house. Let's go. The door slammed shut. The lively house suddenly quieted down. It was so quiet that you could hear a pin drop. Zhuo slowly put down the wine glass, and the smile on his face disappeared bit by bit. Wu Yuding lowered her head. Drops of tears quietly flowed out and fell to the ground. Finally, they're all gone. Wu Yuding suddenly felt grief welling up in her heart, and she burst into tears. Zhuo also blinked and gently breathed in. At night, Wu Yuding opened the door of her son and daughter's room. Looking at the empty bedroom and the dark room, she couldn't help but cry the whole night. Zhuo walked out of the city and saw Li Chenglong waiting at the city gate. Did you cry? Li Chenglong asked. Did you cry? No. Me neither. Let's go. The feelings of children and their parents were always so different. Before they left, the children were reluctant to part with their parents. But when they left, their hearts had already flown to the outside world. They didn't have time to be sentimental about the vast and new world before they were immersed in a colorful and exciting life. And the sadness of parents always came after they parted with their children. Every day, every moment, they were all worried. They all leaned against the door and looked at each other. On the second day after their children left, they habitually looked at the door. It was time for school to end again. They couldn't wait until they remembered that they had already gone to college. So they felt sad again. Zhuo and Li Chenglong set off from the east gate of Phoenix City. They walked all the way until they were dozens of miles away from Phoenix City. They climbed the highest mountain, stood on the stone at the top of the mountain, and looked back. Over there, that's our home. Zhuo said in a daze. Yes, Mom and Dad are at home. Li Chenglong was also in a daze. I wonder how long it will take to go home from Fenghai? You should take a break. If you really go home suddenly, they will be shocked. They might think that something happened. But if you break through the nascent soul, you can fly back in a few hours. That's true. My mom must be crying. My mom too. Sigh. Let's go. Okay. The two figures rushed down the mountain like arrows and rushed into the meteorite plain. Behind them, the mountain finally covered Phoenix City. Chapter 368. They advanced all the way into the meteorite plains. Once they left the protective layer, the meteor shower above their heads poured down in a not too dense manner, smashing holes all around them. As far as the eye could see, there were meteors falling endlessly. This was the first obstacle a Xiantian cultivator had to face before entering the next stage of cultivation. It was also a matter of life and death. This was the reason why the high martial arts academies required students who graduated from the high martial arts academies to go to their respective high schools independently or in groups, to quickly adapt to the living atmosphere, living environment, and living conditions that Xiantian cultivators had to face. If there were external help, such as parents or hiring powerful cultivators to escort them, it would only cause them to develop a sense of dependence and misjudge their ability to survive. After the protective layer was removed, they would be in danger. Just like what could be seen now, the entire meteorite plains was like a battlefield filled with smoke and fire. Cannonballs were unceasingly falling. Even though they were not particularly concentrated, their destructive power was not lacking. They were truly capable of killing people. It didn't matter if it was an ordinary person or a weaker cultivator. If they encountered a large meteor shower with meteorites containing strange materials, even an expert would be smashed to death. Naturally, there were roads on the meteorite plains, and they were relatively safe. However, these roads were formed by an alliance of many large merchants who used this road all year round. Every certain distance, someone needed to hold up a protective layer to protect the passage. Over time, a special economic method was formed on the road: toll fees. After all, they were protecting this road from being smashed by meteorites. At the same time, they were providing a great convenience that didn't need to worry about their lives. As long as they passed through this road, they would naturally be safe. Therefore, everyone was very willing to pay the toll fees, and there were few disputes. However, Shuo and Li Chenglong obviously didn't plan to take the safe road. Their choice was to jump all the way through the wilderness. This was a path of cultivation, but also a path of tempering. The Hidden Dragon High Martial Arts entrance training tool on their bodies had already been opened. This entrance training tool would faithfully record all the situations that they encountered along the way. If their lives were really in danger, they could also take the initiative to press the emergency call button. Naturally, the teachers of the Hidden Dragon High Martial Arts entrance training tool would come to their aid. However, no matter how much of a genius or monstrous a student you were, from the moment you pressed the emergency button, you would lose all the privileges you originally had in the High Martial Academy and become the most ordinary student. Swollen, you claim to be erudite and knowledgeable. Do you know what's going on with the meteor shower that keeps falling from the sky? Shuo asked with a smile as he slapped away a meteorite falling from the sky. I really don't know the exact reason. There are too many guesses about this. Li Chenglong sighed and said, a more reliable guess is that there was a world-ending battle in the past. Several powerful people in the starry sky fought in the starry sky, causing the universe to collapse and the Milky Way to collapse. This caused the endless rain of stars to return to the origin of the Yuan Qi, resulting in such a scene. But at least in my opinion, this statement is not accurate. How could there be a battle that lasted for tens of thousands of years? Not to mention a meteor shower that can last for tens of thousands of years. There must be some other reason behind this. Li Chenglong continued to dodge the meteorites. As he moved forward in a snake-like manner, he said, I'm more inclined to believe that, in the distant starry sky, there's a planet that's millions of times bigger than our continent that's constantly splitting. During the process of its fission, its star fragments form a huge number of meteorites that fall continuously, eventually forming a meteor shower. Li Chenglong said, why do you think this way? Although the previous statement wasn't officially recognized, it's still the most mainstream one, right? Shuo asked curiously. The main reason I agree with the latter statement is because of the falling jade of astral souls. Li Chenglong said, after so many years, although the quality of the jade of astral souls varies greatly, as long as the meteorites contain the jade of astral souls, the basic composition is the same. You must know that the difference is only limited to the difference in quality, but the essence and composition factors are basically the same. It can already be concluded that they came from the same planet. Li Chenglong said, what's lacking now is just that there's no concrete evidence. Shuo was silent for a long time. Then he said, your argument seems reasonable, but it's easy to refute. You must know that there are also astral souls on our continent that contain astral souls jade. Moreover, the composition is exactly the same as that of the meteorite belt. What do you think? Li Chenglong said, that's another matter. I'm more inclined to the second statement, but it's not necessarily accurate. Just as the two of them were discussing heatedly, a whistling sound suddenly appeared in the sky. Sensing the aura, the two of them quickly jumped to the left and right. Then, with a loud bang, a meteorite as big as 2 millstones combined slammed into the ground with a scorching aura. Immediately, a big hole was smashed into the solid ground. It was a few meters wide and very deep. The surrounding ground shook uniformly. Everything on the ground within a radius of dozens of miles jumped up. At the same time, a dense spiritual energy rushed towards them. This piece is quite heavy. Shuo glanced at it and jumped down. He directly grabbed the big rock and threw it up, ignoring the temperature that could turn an ordinary person into ashes. With a bang, the meteorite fell to the ground again, but it didn't cause any more damage. Shuo moved, the cat spirit sword in his hand. The sword flickered with a red light. It was infused with the flaming sun scripture. He brazenly slashed down. The boulder was split open from one side like a piece of tofu. Damn! Li Chenglong was shocked. This huge meteorite weighed at least tens of thousands of kilograms. After about 3 feet of its surface was cut open, a large piece of green astral soul's jade was hidden in the middle. The harvest is not bad. Zuoxiaoduo held the sword and cut the entire piece of astral soul's jade into a large square as if it was tofu. All of them are of medium quality. It's a small harvest. When I reach Hidden Dragon, I can use this as a mattress. Li Chenglong's eyes immediately turned red. This was a large piece of astral soul's jade the size of a calf. It was a medium-quality jade of astral souls. Looking at it, it was at least 20,000 kilograms, right? Putting the market price aside, just the appearance of such a complete piece would only increase its value by several times. This was a windfall that fell from the sky and landed directly in Zuoxiaoduo's pocket. Why didn't I see it? Li Chenglong was depressed. He felt that he had acted too late. If he had acted earlier, he would have been able to get a share of the loot. Ever since Li Chenglong had teamed up with Zuoxiaoduo and the others, he had gained a lot from every experience. His wealth was much greater than before. However, as his cultivation continued, he would need to consume more and more resources every day. He might not care about small amounts of money, but such a large piece of medium-quality jade of astral soul's jade was still quite tempting. You don't have to be so tempted. With your vast knowledge, you will understand many things if you think about it carefully. I was able to obtain such a harvest because I have many convenient conditions. These conditions are all things that you don't have. The meteorite falling from the sky is in itself a stroke of luck. However, if you want to turn this luck into reality, you need to meet many conditions. First, you need to grasp the meteorite in your hands and deal with it as quickly as possible. Do you have that much strength? Are you able to withstand the heat of the meteorite? Zuoxiaoduo dealt with the meteorite carefully and threw it into the ring. The reason why I was able to obtain the Jade of Astral Souls was because of my strength, Flaming Sun Divine Skill, and my Cat Spirit Sword. These 3 are indispensable. Don't you know that the meteorite's heat will carbonize a large part of the Jade of Astral Souls? Li Chenglong's mind raced and he immediately figured it out. However, he still sighed. Even if you are right, you have a lot of wealth now. I don't even have a single strand of hair. Moreover, I have to be insulted by your poisonous mouth. How could I have been so blind to follow you? I regret it so much. You regret it? Zuoxiaoduo snorted. It's not too late to get lost now. We have only just reached this stage. Shda. Li Chenglong did not want to talk anymore. Swollen, when are you going to pay me the money you owe me? Zuoxiaoduo thought of his space ring again. I don't have money. Li Chenglong was furious. He said fiercely, I don't have money and I won't give you my life. Speaking of which, this is such a huge windfall. Are you really not going to share half of it with me? Fuck. I can't even shut your mouth when I asked for money. Zuoxiaoduo screamed. Tisk with your character. If you don't want to keep it all to yourself, why would you deliberately bring up a debt that you can't even get back? Li Chenglong's eyes were full of disdain. What he was trying to say just now was that the windfall that fell from the sky was all yours. I didn't do anything, so why should I get a share? However, the item was already in Zuoxiaoduo's pocket. To ask him to take it out and share it again. Li Chenglong felt that even Li Zhongming, who could control dreams, would not dare to have such a dream. Next, Li Chenglong began to pay attention to the falling meteorites and the possible spiritual herbs in his field of vision. It had to be said that once Li Chenglong's knowledge was fully activated, his harvest would only be more than Zuoxiaoduo's. The two of them quarreled as they walked forward, neither of them giving way to the other. Why should you take half of what I found? Did you do anything? You want to reap without sowing? You must be blind. Brothers are close. It's reasonable to share half when we meet. Then why didn't you share half of the Jade of Astral Souls with me? Brothers are close. Why would I take what others like? Besides, that piece is too complete. It's a pity to cut it open. You could have just given me the whole piece. Do you have that much storage space in your space ring? Don't you want the other things in there? No. Then you can share half of the money with me. Brothers are close. Don't talk about money. It hurts our relationship. Duh. Chapter 369. After walking for 300 miles, Li Chenglong was so angry that he was foaming at the mouth because of a certain someone who was always right. When they found another patch of star ginseng sprouts, Li Chenglong finally couldn't take it anymore. You have to pay for this new batch of harvest. You have to pay. What are you talking about? Swollen with our relationship, how can you talk about money with me? Don't you know that talking about money hurts the relationship between brothers? You're an ungrateful villain. You have to pay, otherwise there's no room for discussion. TSK, you're so stingy. The harvest this time will be used to pay for your ring. Is that okay? Zhuo Duo relented helplessly. When Li Chenglong heard this, he felt that this proposal was acceptable. He beamed with delight and agreed. Deal. A large patch of star ginseng sprouts worth $1 million was put into Zhuo Xiaoduo's space ring. Alright, these star ginseng sprouts are used to pay for your ring, Zhuo Xiaoduo said heartily. It's 1 in 10,000. Since we're brothers, you don't have to be polite with me. 1 in 10,000? Li Chenglong's eyeballs almost fell out. The market price of these star ginseng sprouts is at least 1 million. And it's only 1 in 10,000? Is your ring worth so much? Zhuo Xiaoduo said unhappily. Look at you haggling over every ounce, don't tell me you still want to bargain? I even wanted to cultivate with you. If it weren't for the long period of close contact with each other, do you think you can have your current cultivation and strength? You have to look forward, you know? Look forward, don't look at money. Zhuo Xiaoduo lectured him earnestly. Swollen, you have to be generous, especially to your friends. You have to be loyal. In the future, don't haggle over every penny like this. It's too unpleasant. Li Chenglong was completely stunned. I'm impressed. Li Chenglong rolled his eyes. If I wasn't prepared, I would have fallen out with you. If you feel uncomfortable, you can hit me. You can do whatever you want. Zhuo Xiaoduo smiled. Friends should vent their anger on each other and make each other happy. If I could beat you, I wouldn't need you to tell me. Li Chenglong sighed. He had a premonition that his days would be miserable in the next few years. However, he thought about it again and felt that Zhuo Xiaoduo's words were very reasonable. After all, Zhuo Xiaoduo had urged the Blazing Sun Divine Technique to cultivate together with Li Chenglong. However, the difference was like the difference between heaven and earth. It seemed that he owed Zhuo Xiaoduo a lot. Damn, I'm wrong. How I hypnotized myself. Let's hurry for a while. Tonight, let's rest on the main road ahead. Zhuo Xiaoduo. Okay. At this time, Li Chenglong was already exhausted. Originally, he only had 8,000 pounds of weight on his body. During this period of time, he had already gotten used to it. But this time, Zhuo Xiaoduo added 2 more arm guards for him. One was 5,000 pounds, so the total weight was 10,000 pounds. In other words, Li Chenglong was carrying around 20,000 pounds. Although it was still incomparable to Zhuo Xiaoduo's abnormal 100,000 pounds, it was already Li Chenglong's limit. Along the way, he had to constantly be on guard against falling meteorites and spread out his spiritual sense to search for treasures. Whether it was his physical strength, mental strength, he had already reached his limit. When he heard that he would be able to rest soon, Li Chenglong couldn't help but feel refreshed. They continued forward for another 200 miles. The moon was already in the middle of the sky. Finally, Zhuo showed mercy and announced that they could rest. The two of them walked towards the main road that shone like a river under the moonlight. However, before they could get close, they heard a cry for help from the other side. Help! Zhuo Xiaoduo and Li Chenglong couldn't help but look at each other. Their luck was really indescribable. Just when they wanted to rest, they ran into trouble. Didn't they know that they had been tired for the whole day? Should we do something? Li Chenglong looked at Zhuo Xiaoduo. No matter what, we have to go and take a look first. We have to analyze the specific situation. Zhuo Xiaoduo said matter-of-factly, by the way, swollen, you like to read. How many novels have you read? The novels I have read should be called unofficial history. Li Chenglong was confused by Zhuo Xiaoduo's jumping thoughts. He replied casually, what do you mean? Zai, why are you so ignorant? You're really not smart at all. I'm so tired of carrying you. Duo sped up and said, "You have to remember that the protagonist of a book will run into trouble no matter where he goes. Those who run into trouble the most are basically the destined ones. They are the core characters of the whole book. For example, me. For example, when that stone fell beside me and I didn't walk far before someone called for help. Do you understand?" Duo was proud. "This is called protagonist treatment. Do you understand? Country bumpkin." Heh. Li Chenglong curled his lips. "You say it as if I haven't run into it. That's different." Duo said, "As a protagonist, there will be a follower around him. These kinds of characters also have a mixed name which is basically related to being fat. Even if they aren't fat, they will be beaten to look fat. This is the treatment of a protagonist." Li Chenglong's mouth twitched. He didn't want to talk anymore. He finally understood that if he said a few more words, he would be beaten up again. Fuck, why did I say again? Before the two of them even reached the roadside, they were already shocked by the scene in front of them. There were at least several thousand star beasts a few miles ahead, and they were still gathering in all directions. Even further away, there were even more star beasts rushing in this direction. Now there were more than 60 saber-winged tigers, eyeing them from all directions. There was a group of people who were trapped in the center of the encirclement. They were all squeezed together and their bodies were trembling like sieves. They had no ability to resist. Looking over, there were more than 10 warriors at the outermost circle. They seemed to be bodyguards or something like that. Although they weren't in such a bad condition, they were all sweating profusely. The two people at the front were constantly setting fire on the road. These two people were the masters of the Merchant Alliance guarding the official road. They were anxious and impatient, shouting, "What on earth are you carrying with you? Who took out those weird things? Put them away quickly. Why don't we just throw them out?" These two masters of the Merchant Alliance were both masters of the inner core stage. They were naturally powerful. However, facing such a large group of star beasts, they were still helpless. They could only sigh and keep adding fuel and branches. However, even though the star beasts were afraid of fire, they still didn't want to retreat. They just kept roaring around the fire. Help! Although they knew that it was useless to call for help, there were still many people who couldn't control the fear in their hearts. They kept calling for help until their voices were hoarse. It was as if shouting like this could reduce the fear in their hearts. The two masters of the Merchant Alliance were so anxious that they were sweating profusely. The fuel they had was almost used up. There weren't many branches left. Even if they burned everyone's clothes, how long could it last? What gave them a bigger headache was why these star beasts were so persistent. What was it that attracted these star beasts? The two of them were confused. They didn't know how to deal with it. As a cultivator belonging to the Merchant Union, he had been on the trade route all year round. He was very familiar with how to deal with unexpected situations. The group of people arrived here in the afternoon. They were tired, so they rested on the spot. Their behavior was no different from usual. However, they didn't know what was going on. Not long after the sky turned dark, a large number of star beasts started to surround them. In less than 15 minutes, they were surrounded from all sides. It was the first time they saw such a dangerous situation after guarding the official road for so long. Moreover, even though the star beasts were afraid of fire, how could they be afraid of such a small fire with so many high-level star beasts gathered here? What were these star beasts waiting for? What were they going to do? This was something that they had never seen before. Duo and Li Chenglong were stunned when they saw the situation. What's going on? Why were there so many star beasts gathered here? Those saber-winged tigers were equivalent to human inner core stage cultivators. Moreover, these were just the ones they saw. They didn't know if there were more powerful ones hiding behind. What did these people do? Why did they provoke so many star beasts? Duo looked over. Under the illumination of the fire, a group of people were pale. One of them was a familiar face. Ji Weiran. At this moment, his face was filled with nervousness and despair. "There are too many star beasts here, boss." Li Chenglong hit his body on a tree stump. "It's difficult. Even if it's difficult, we have to do it." Duo sighed. The situation was too dangerous. They were surrounded by a large number of star beasts. Even though they were surrounded by fierce fire, They still didn't leave. Obviously, they wouldn't give up until they reached their goal. Moreover, more star beasts were rushing over. There must be a big reason. If they didn't understand the situation and entered the trap rashly, not only would they fail to save the people, they might even lose their lives. Swishaoduo wasn't a saint. He didn't even consider himself a good person. If Ji Weiran wasn't here, Swishaoduo would probably turn around and leave. There were so many people dying in this world every day. Who was innocent? However, Ji Weiran's existence made it impossible for Swishaoduo to leave. Ji Weiran was the future leader in the development of individual weapons. He was a special existence who could save countless people in the Astral Souls continent. He had to save them. Swishaoduo frowned and thought for a moment. Then he secretly took out a piece of top-grade jade of Astral Souls from his space ring and held it in his hand. The moment the top-grade jade of Astral Souls was exposed to the air, a magnificent spiritual energy suddenly exploded. In the blink of an eye, a small spirit chi tide was formed. Countless star beasts turned their heads and looked over. Their eyes were full of greed. The next moment, rumble, like a tide, the star beasts turned and rushed over. There were more and more of them. The tide was turbulent, and the waves were getting bigger and bigger. Gradually, it was like a huge wave. 0.5 chapters. Looking for monthly votes and recommendation votes. Because there was a transitional chapter in the middle, he might as well go over. Chapter 370. Most star beasts wouldn't be able to resist the temptation of such pure spiritual energy. However, the 100 or so large star beasts in the middle only turned their heads before turning their heads back. They had actually resisted the temptation on this side. Li Chenglong watched as the star beasts rushed toward him like a tide. His legs turned to jelly. Boss. There's no time to explain now. Swishaoduo casually tossed the top-grade jade of Astral Souls to Li Chenglong. Hurry up and remove the weights. Run as fast as you can to lure this large wave away. Wait for me 500 kilometers ahead. Hurry. Run. Li Chenglong was on the verge of tears as he hurriedly removed the weights. You're just messing with me. You've already trained me for an entire day, and now you're making me race against thousands of starving star beasts. Are you trying to play me to death? Oh, the star beast at the front was already close. It leaped into the air and went straight for Li Chenglong, who had the jade of Astral Souls in his hand. Swishaoduo drilled into the ground without a care. You don't have to run. Let the star beasts chase after you. His entire body drilled into the hole. In addition, he didn't have the jade of Astral Souls in his hand. Naturally, he didn't have to worry about being targeted by the star beasts. All the star beasts rushed toward Li Chenglong. Fuck. Li Chenglong immediately took to his heels. This is too much. Too much. He ran for thousands of meters in the blink of an eye. As he ran, he removed the weights and ran faster and faster, leaving the dust behind. The star beasts chased after him relentlessly. Smoke and dust billowed along the way. It was a spectacular sight. The leader of the Iron God sect, Li Chenglong, started a new movement. He ran alone with the star beasts. More and more star beasts followed behind him. From a few hundred to a few thousand, and then to a few thousand. It was extremely spectacular and incomparable. He watched as Li Chenglong ran away. Swishaoduo emerged from the ground and looked to the other side. More than 2/3 of the star beasts had been lured away. There were only about 100 of them left, and most of them were saber-winged tigers. There was also a portion of them, the black-horned white-tailed tigers. These two primal core star beasts were still eyeing them covetously, not leaving at all. None of the other star beasts were left. They had all been lured away by the jade of Astral Souls in Great Founder Li's hand. The flames on the official road were getting smaller and smaller. It was obvious that there was nothing left to burn. The despair on everyone's faces deepened. They had thought that the person who had suddenly jumped out was their savior. Who would have thought that even though that person had good intentions and had successfully lured away a large portion of the star beasts, the remaining ones were still fatal. In fact, the situation might even be worse than before. Although there were many astral beasts gathered together, the ones at the front were just ordinary astral beasts. However, the ones that they had to face now were all Core Cloud's astral beasts. At this moment Swishaoduo finally stood up. Of course Master Zhuo would not act rashly. However, he had found a relatively feasible breakthrough. And it was an acquaintance. Well, that was not right. It should be an acquaintance. The saber-winged tiger in the middle, which was relatively smaller in size. And the one with a small tuft of white fur on its ear. Wasn't that the tiger beauty that he had met in the trial earlier? Wasn't that the tiger beauty that he had a good relationship with? And wasn't it the king of the northern part of Phoenix City? Why was it here? The distance was not close. Swishaoduo appeared. His whole body was emitting an amiable aura. He walked over with a smile. After a few steps, he had already approached the group of tigers. Then the strangest thing happened. A few saber-winged tigers at the periphery moved their bodies, intentionally or otherwise, and let him pass. Swishaoduo was stunned by this change. Why didn't they attack me? Although I am handsome, if I say that I am so handsome that even the saber-winged tigers like me, isn't this a little too whimsical? However, it was obvious that the saber-winged tigers did not have any hostility towards him. Swishaoduo's body swayed back and forth. He actually managed to pass through the group of saber-winged tigers safely. Inside the ring of fire, the people who witnessed this scene were all stunned. Who was this brat? How could he be so awesome? Could it be that these saber-winged tigers were actually raised by him? Swishaoduo had already arrived in front of the tigress. He greeted her with a smile. Hello, beautiful tiger. We meet again. The tigress looked at the person in front of her in confusion. After a long while she finally reacted. Her eyes were instantly filled with panic. With a whoosh she shrunk her body and hid behind a big tiger. She whimpered and nudged the big tiger with her head. It's him, it's him. He was the one who bullied me that day. The big tiger howled and raised its neck. It revealed a proud expression. Don't be afraid, your husband is here. How did he bully you? Are you still a chaste tiger? Howl howl. The tigress was angry. This idiot, what was he thinking? This two-legged beast in front of her was not even enough to use its head. The big tiger thought that this made sense. Hence, it shook its head and wagged its tail. Howl. The general meaning of this roar in human language was, I'm not green. Then it raised its eyes and looked at Swishaoduo in front of it. Howl howl. Swishaoduo was already stunned when he heard the first roar. Now he was even more stunned. Does he really want to communicate with me? But I don't know the language of beasts. What kind of person was Swishaoduo? He was an elf, a cunning person. He smoothly pulled out large pieces of cooked meat from his spatial ring and threw them on the ground. I'll treat you to some. The big tiger was at a loss. It sniffed and swallowed its saliva. Howl. You want to poison me? But it smells so good. On the side, the tigress turned around and bit a piece of meat with one bite. She wolfed it down and whimpered. Howl howl howl. Translation. This is delicious. Eat it quickly. This two-legged beast let me eat it many times a while ago. It's just that every time I eat it, I get beaten up. The big tiger howl? The other big tigers beside it didn't care if it howled or not. When they smelled the fragrance they turned around, sniffed with their noses and started eating. It would be a waste not to eat it. This two-legged beast seems to be friends with the boss's wife? I wonder if it's green or not. If it's me, I'll definitely be green. Whatever, let's eat first. Swishaoduo felt that he seemed to understand a little. The purpose of these saber-toothed tigers surrounding this place was not to eat humans to fill their stomachs. In fact, Swishaoduo had already learned from Li Chenglong that saber-winged tigers basically didn't eat humans unless their territory was invaded. In other words, this group of winged tigers were not particularly ferocious star beasts. But now that they were surrounding this place, there must be another reason. Swishaoduo threw a few more pieces of meat and patted the big tiger's head, which was busy eating. The big tiger turned its head angrily and bared its fangs, showing a ferocious look. Howl! How dare you pat this king's head? How dare you? Swishaoduo patted it again and reached out to point at the fire. The big tiger was stunned and its furry head actually nodded. This time Swishaoduo was sure that there really was a reason behind this. He walked all the way through the saber-toothed tigers. Wherever he passed, large pieces of fragrant cooked meat were scattered. It was as if he was a hard-working breeder feeding pigs stood inside the ring of fire. Everyone was dumbfounded. This person was too awesome. They watched as this cyan-robed young master fed the tigers all the way, as if he was taking a leisurely stroll through a courtyard. He was really too handsome. His clothes fluttered, his figure was tall, his face was handsome, and there was a smile at the corner of his mouth. It was simply that there were a few girls in the circle. They could only feel their hearts pounding, and for a moment they forgot to be afraid. Swordsmanship walked a few steps into the fire circle. He felt a little regretful. If he had known this would happen, he would not have let Swollen escape. That it had to be said that Swollen's trip this time was somewhat uncalled for. This young master. The Merchant Alliance's inner core stage expert was extremely shocked. He actually called out a name from the martial world. It's nothing. Swordsmanship smiled and said, I saw that you guys seem to be in trouble, so I came over to take a look. Now, it seems that you guys have something that they want. That's why they came over. They surrounded you but did not kill you. Their real intention is to make you hand over that thing. I believe that from my conversation with this group of tigers, you should be able to determine that they do not have any ill intentions. I just don't know what you guys have that attracted them over. I really don't know. If I knew what it was, I would have thrown it out long ago. The two inner core stage experts were in tears and snot. They had been protecting the trade route for many years. How could they not know what was going on? If I knew what it was, I would have thrown it out long ago. I really don't know what it is. It actually attracted so many big guys. Everyone's things are all here. It's just spread out here. We've been looking for a long time, but we still can't tell what these saber-toothed tigers like. Everyone's face was filled with confusion. Just like what the inner core stage expert had said, if they knew what it was, they would have thrown it out long ago. No matter how rare it was, could it be more important than the lives of so many people? Swordsmanship looked around and scratched his head. He really should not have let Swollen escape. If he was here, perhaps he would be able to tell that he was the expert in this area. Suddenly, Swordsmanship had an idea. He said, I'll find someone I know. Find someone he knew? Everyone was puzzled for a long time. They saw Swordsmanship turn around and walk into the middle of the saber-toothed tigers again. A certain someone slowly squatted down and patted the big tiger's head. Then he turned around and pointed. Then he grabbed the big tiger's paw and pulled it towards the fire. Then he repeated the action again. The big tiger understood and raised its head. It was a little hesitant. Awa. It's okay. Swordsmanship repeated the action again. He spread out his hands and shrugged his shoulders, repeatedly showing that he was harmless. The big tiger tilted its head and thought for a while. Then its two ears shook a few times. It stretched out its huge tiger paw and patted the tigress. Whoa. Translation. You go. The tigress was dumbfounded and howled a few times in grievance. Translation. You don't love me anymore. You weren't like this in the past. At this time, a few smaller tigresses came out from the side and howled at the tigress with white fur on her ears. Translation. If I tell you to go, then go. Do you think you're the first wife? During the time you left, we've already become the third, fourth, and fifth wives. Chapter 371. The white-eared tigress whimpered in grievance, but she was still pushed out mercilessly. When she came in front of Swordsmanship, she raised her head and whimpered. Her eyes were full of grievance. Swordsmanship was actually a little pitiful. He smiled and said, let's go and see what you want. Just tell me directly. It's so simple. The tigress followed Swordsmanship with grievance and walked out of the crowd. Behind them, the tigresses and the big tiger's gaze were all inexplicably complicated. Swordsmanship couldn't help but sigh in his heart. He didn't expect that the tigress he met by chance that day was actually the female lead of his clan's domestic drama. It seemed that the harem was really everywhere. I have to be very vigilant. I can't be half-hearted and half-hearted. However, this tigress, it seemed that after being chased back by him, she didn't have a good life. Then should I help it? Swordsmanship walked over with the tigress that was more than 10 meters long. The two sides hadn't officially met yet, but the other side could already feel the stench of blood. Everyone's expression became more and more unpleasant. Everything depends on human effort. The advantage isn't on our side. We have the heart to let things go, but we don't have the ability to distinguish between things. Swishaoduo said, "We can only let this tigress who knows help us." As he spoke, he pointed to the piles in front. He gestured to the tigress, then pushed a pile of things under the tigress' nose and pointed to the pile. The tigress shook her head and pushed back with her paw. Then she began to search through the piles. Until the last person she finally stopped. The tigress lay on the ground and roared. Her iron stick-like tail swayed back and forth, creating a few cracks on the artificial road. Translation: It's him. It's him. He hid our good things. Anger. Everyone's gaze was on Ji Weiran at the same time. Ji Weiran's face was pale. He said involuntarily, "Master Zhua, I didn't bring anything." As he spoke, he opened all his suitcases. Inside there was indeed nothing else except clothes, some food and some cash. But the tigress lay in front of him and refused to leave. Her breathing was heavy, and her expression became more and more ferocious. Her tail violently whipped back and forth. "Pa pa pa! Pa pa pa! You've already been caught red-handed, yet you still want to act shamelessly. Be careful that I don't bite you." "Really?" Swishaoduo was also a little confused. Looking at Ji Weiran's face, she knew that he was not the kind of person who would say one thing and mean another. There was indeed nothing else on him. One had to know that he had neither cultivation nor mental strength, so naturally, he couldn't use spatial equipment. But there must be a reason why this tigress is lying in front of you and not going anywhere else. Swishaoduo frowned and suddenly asked, "What's that hanging around your neck?" "Around my neck?" Ji Weiran was stunned. He immediately took off a pendant and said, "This?" The tigress suddenly roared. The moment this thing appeared, all the tigers surrounding them suddenly stood up and roared in unison. Its power shook the heavens and the earth. Ji Weiran's face paled. At this moment, everyone knew that it was this little thing that caused the trouble. Swishaoduo walked over and took it in his hands. It was a pearl about the size of a pigeon's egg. But for some reason there was a small hole in the pearl, and a faintly discernible aura was flowing out from the broken hole. "Looks like it's this thing." Swishaoduo held the pendant and said thoughtfully, "Ji Weiran, did you accidentally fall these 2 days?" Ji Weiran was stunned. "Yes, Master Zhua is really good at predicting things. When I was rushing this morning, I left the official road to relieve myself. I didn't expect to fall. Did you lie down on the ground?" Swishaoduo asked. Ji Weiran nodded in admiration. No wonder Master Zhua was so accurate in his predictions. "Yes, if you didn't lie down, you wouldn't have been able to break this pearl." Swishaoduo raised the pearl and showed it to Ji Weiran. Only then did Ji Weiran realize that the pearl that he had been carrying had cracked. Why did the ground crack? Ji Weiran was shocked. It's because of the cracks on this thing that caused the aura inside to leak out. Then, these guys came. What they want is this thing inside. Swishaoduo exerted a bit of force and peeled off a layer of the outer layer of the pearl, revealing 2 yellow translucent stones. One big and one small. The bigger one was the size of a cherry, and the smaller one was the size of a bean. "Is this it?" Swishaoduo put it in front of the tigress. The tigress couldn't speak, so Swishaoduo understood. This was a broken inner core. There were originally many pieces, but now there were only 2 small pieces left. Swishaoduo recalled the reactions of the saber-toothed tigers. This inner core should be left behind by the tiger tribe's seniors, and it was definitely not of a low grade. Otherwise, they wouldn't be so crazy. They wouldn't be so rational to not hurt people, because they knew that it wasn't difficult for them to annihilate the group of humans in front of them, but it was even easier for humans to destroy this thing. The tigress looked at the 2 small inner cores, shaking her head and wagging her tail. She breathed heavily and stuck out her tongue, drooling. Her eyes were full of desire. But she didn't dare to do it. Swishaoduo smiled and suddenly picked up the small one, throwing it into the tigress's mouth at lightning speed. Then he broke off a small piece of the top-grade Astral Soul's jade, wrapped it in a pill robe, and threw it into the tigress's mouth. His movements were very small and his technique was fast. Even Ji Weiran, who was nearby, didn't see any movements. Everything was done. Ow! The tigress let out a surprised cry, but before she could finish, Swishaoduo had already pinched her mouth, and then gently patted her mouth. The tigress was also smart. She immediately closed her mouth and swallowed the two things with all her might. After a moment, her big eyes were full of gratitude and closeness. The tail behind him was swaying like a windmill. This was a sign of extreme joy, and also the sign of intimacy. Behind him, the big tiger was jealous and whimpered softly. This slut. She must have taken a fancy to that two-legged beast. My head wouldn't be green, right? There was still one left. The tigress turned back and howled twice. The big tiger walked over slowly, vigilant but elegant. The muscles all over his body moved rhythmically. He was really beautiful and majestic. The tigress moved her body and revealed the little inner core. The big tiger's eyes lit up. He looked at the tigress gratefully, rushed forward and swallowed it. There was a commotion among the tigers, but it calmed down immediately. The big tiger swallowed the inner core, wagged his tail, and nodded arrogantly at Swishaoduo. Then he turned around and left. After taking a few steps, he suddenly turned and looked at the tigress behind him in confusion. Why aren't you leaving? You really like this kid? I'll teach you a lesson when we get back. The tigress whimpered, stood up, and rubbed her head against Swishaoduo's leg. Then she took 2 steps back and looked at Swishaoduo reluctantly. She turned around and jumped, following the big tiger. With a boom, hundreds of saber-winged tigers soared into the sky at the same time. They roared in unison and left. Swishaoduo sighed slightly. I fought with you so many times to improve my cultivation. In the end, I even beat you up until you moved. I'll give you this opportunity as a little compensation. Actually, Swishaoduo could feel it. The inner core fragment that Ji Weiran carried was not only something that the saber-toothed tigers must have, but it was also an opportunity for him. According to physiognomy, every bird and peck was destined. Everything that happened must have a meaning. And he came here coincidentally to encounter this matter. It was also today that Ji Weiran fell, causing this item to appear and cause a crisis. If he exposed all his trump cards and used force to resolve this crisis, he should be able to do it. With the help of the big hammer, hidden weapons, sword techniques, and the help of the 2 origin core grandmasters, it was not impossible to kill these saber-winged tigers. Ji Weiran was born unable to cultivate. This item was not only useless on him, but it was also the root of disaster. As his savior, it was only natural for him to obtain this treasure. It was logical and reasonable. The inner core fragment was enough to raise his cultivation to the peak of the innate stage without any pressure. After that, he would have to suppress his cultivation level again. At the very least, he could save a few months of time to raise his cultivation level. This was an opportunity. Swishaoduo's initial plan was also like this. That was why he directly passed through the saber-winged tigers. As long as a tiger moved its mouth, Swishaoduo could naturally start a massacre. But he did not expect that these saber-winged tigers did not have any intention of hurting people. Therefore, Swishaoduo changed his mind. Especially after seeing the tigress, his thoughts suddenly turned in an extreme direction. Wasn't it just a broken inner core, so what? I'll just give it to them. These tigers are quite cute. Swishaoduo didn't even blink as he gave up on this opportunity. He didn't even check carefully to see what grade the Niden was. Actually, it should be said that Swishaoduo did not dare to check. He was afraid that once he checked, he would not be able to bear to part with it. It's good to be able to make this palace drama more lively. Swishaoduo imagined that the tigress would be able to do whatever she wanted in the harem, and suppress the other mistresses until they did not even dare to breathe. He could not help but laugh and cheer. He had no idea what kind of existence would result from this fortuitous encounter in the future. Master Zhua, thank you so much for today. Ji Weiran was very grateful to Swishaoduo. Today he really thought that he was going to die. There were so many ferocious beasts. Any one of them could easily end his life. From the reaction of the 2 origin core grandmasters and the team of hired bodyguards, it was obvious that they could not protect ordinary people like him. Chapter 372. You're welcome. Where are you going? Swishaoduo asked. We're going to the university to register. Ji Weiran was confused by Zhou Xiaoduo's question. Aren't you going to take a plane or something? Zhou Xiaoduo was puzzled. Ordinary people running around in the meteorite plains? Weren't they afraid of being eaten? Ahem. Ji Weiran looked at the dozen or so companions around him. His face was filled with embarrassment. The others were also embarrassed. Ahem, it's a discussion among my classmates. We'll leave a few days in advance and pool money to hire a bodyguard team. Then, we'll just take it as a trip. Besides, although we don't have the aptitude for cultivation, we're looking forward to fighting with swords. Ahem. We'd like to see it. Ji Weiran sounded very embarrassed. Zhou Xiaoduo was speechless. What was there to see? The price of seeing it once might be losing one's life. Okay? Everyone, have you seen the different scenery of the meteorite plains? Zhou Xiaoduo asked with a smile. Yes. Ahem. Do you want to see it again next time? No. Ji Weiran's face turned red. Ha. Zhou Xiaoduo laughed. Where's your university? Fenghai. Ji Weiran was hopeful. Master Zhou, you're also going there to register, right? May I know which university is your target? What a coincidence. My target university is also in Fenghai. Then I'm afraid not. Zhou Xiaoduo shook his head regretfully. But you're too slow. If we go with you, we won't be able to make it in time for school to start. That's a pity. Ji Weiran's face was full of disappointment. It's okay. You'll travel slowly along the trade route. The trade route is well protected. However, it's better not to see such things in the future. Zhou Xiaoduo smiled and instructed. After exchanging contact information with Ji Weiran, Zhou Xiaoduo greeted the others and continued on their journey. Old Ji, let's keep in touch when we reach Fenghai. After rushing forward for more than 500 kilometers, he unexpectedly did not see Li Chenglong. He did not know where that fellow had run off to. Why did he not arrive at the agreed destination? However, Zhou Xiaoduo was not worried that Li Chenglong would end up in the astral beast's stomach. With Li Chenglong's vast knowledge, his survival skills might not be inferior to his own. After a while, Zhou Xiaoduo finally found Li Chenglong hiding in a deep pit on a hillside like a groundhog. Zhou! Li Chenglong shouted excitedly. Come here. There's something good here. Zhou Xiaoduo squatted at the entrance of the cave and asked, Is there anything good? I don't know yet. Li Chenglong climbed out of the cave and panted. Those astral beasts were chasing me all the way. I was afraid that they would run back if I got too close. So, I took the jade of astral souls that you gave me and ran for another 100 kilometers before putting it away. The spiritual essence suddenly disappeared and more than half of the astral beasts ran away. After running for a while, there were no more astral beasts chasing after me. To be safe, I saw a hole on the left and hid in it. Guess what happened? Li Chenglong was excited. Zhou Xiaoduo sighed and opened his eyes. He looked listlessly and pretended to be shocked. There was dirt in the hole? Damn you! Li Chenglong laughed and scolded. There was a jade of astral souls in the hole. It was huge, so of course it was nothing. But when I looked carefully, there was another hole next to the jade of astral souls. It was a very deep hole. In other words, there was only one hole here. But the jade of astral souls fell from the sky and smashed into it. Otherwise, it wouldn't be so deep. When I explored this deep hole, I found a faint fragrance coming from it. If I'm not wrong, this should be the cave of an extremely rare astral soul's musk. Because it was destroyed by the meteorite, the native astral soul's musk must have left long ago. But where the musk of astral souls lived, there must be vanilla orchid. This thing has no legs, so it can't walk. Musk of astral souls? Zhou Xiaoduo turned his head and looked around. The hillside was full of potholes and fiery red soil. Moreover, he could faintly feel that the temperature underground was even higher. Waves of hot air rushed out of the hole. It seemed that the musk of astral soul's musk might have lived here before. Li Chenglong said, Now you understand why I've been busy with this. What a coincidence. I just finished cleaning the hole and you arrived. Zhou Xiaoduo looked carefully and found that Li Chenglong had already cleaned up about 20 meters deep. It was obvious that the work was almost done. What's the use of the vanilla orchid? It's only worth a little money. It's not much. It's only worth a few 100,000. What is it worth? Zhou Xiaoduo said disdainfully. It's just a little money. You care about it? I really look down on you. Get out of the way, let me do it. Li Chenglong didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Brother, this isn't a matter of money. The market price of the vanilla orchid isn't too high, but it's really rare. Because of its special harvesting conditions, it's difficult for ordinary people to harvest it. I heard that. The vice president of Hidden Dragon High School was splashed with the water of the River of Forgetfulness during the war with the Umno Alliance. Since then, the strange smell on his body couldn't be removed. Every time he went out, he would spray an unusually strong perfume, but it still couldn't cover it. That's why the vice president rarely comes out. The solution to his problem is to use the vanilla orchid. As long as the vanilla orchid is combined with some medicinal liquid, the stench can be removed. Do you understand? Li Chenglong said, if it weren't for this matter, just a few 100,000 yuan wouldn't be enough for my hard work. I want to find a backer for the two of us in school. Since I've met one, it's a waste not to harvest it. I see. Zhou Xiaoduo, who knew the whole story, was still a little disappointed. Picking the vanilla orchid just to flatter him, Masters were really felt that it was meaningless. He actually wanted to use it as a gift. Not for me. Money that couldn't go into my pocket. Could that still be called money? That was called dog shit. Then go ahead and pick them. I won't stop you. Zhou Xiaoduo sat down weakly. He was really a little tired now. Just now he was worried about Li Chenglong and searched for him at top speed. Now that his mind was relaxed, especially when he was full of disappointment, he suddenly felt tired. Everything he did became dull and dull. Li Chenglong said, normally, the places where the star spirit musk deer lived before would have more than one stalk of vanilla orchid. But what that vice principal Xiang needed, he only needed one stalk, at most 2 stalks only. If this cave had 1 stalk, what do you think would happen? A patch. Zhou Xiaoduo sat up straight abruptly. His eyes were shining, as if all the tiredness in his body had disappeared without a trace. If there is a patch full of vanilla orchids, then we will be rich. Li Chenglong said enticingly. Look at the situation in this cave. I'm afraid this cave has existed for at least hundreds of years. The most conservative estimate is that there should be no less than 10 vanilla orchids in here. 10? Why didn't you say so earlier? Zhou Xiaoduo was suddenly energized. You are too slow, let me do it. Okay. Li Chenglong jumped up and said, if you see the vanilla orchid, you have to remember the key points of picking it up. You have to dig it up along with the soil, and then use your scorching technique to maintain the temperature of the soil above 60 degrees. Understood. You are too long-winded. Zhou Xiaoduo started to work enthusiastically. Li Chenglong took out a bottle of water and started to drink. He stretched his legs and rested leisurely. Finally, this guy was here. Go in? If I go in, I can only kill the vanilla orchids. I don't know how to use scorching skills. I have been waiting here for you. Do you think I am not tired? I am dying of exhaustion. After a while, Zhou Xiaoduo came out with a big lump of soil. The soil below was steaming hot because of him. But Zhou Xiaoduo's face was as ugly as it could get. Didn't you say that there were at least 10? Why is there only 1 after searching for so long? Master Zhou felt that he had been cheated. He had gone down smoothly, found the vanilla orchids, and dug them up smoothly. The only thing that did not meet his expectations was, where was the patch that Li Chenglong mentioned? Where were at least 10 of them? There was only 1 stalk that looked like a bean sprout on a small patch of warm soil. He had been cheated by this bastard. Only 1 stalk? That can't be right? Li Chenglong was exaggeratedly surprised. He beat his chest and stamped his feet. I worked so hard just for 1 stalk? Zhou Xiaoduo looked at him coldly. But 1 stalk is enough. Li Chenglong comforted him. It is enough for us to find someone to rely on in school. Zhou, you worked hard this time. It was worth the price of the ticket. Zhou Xiaoduo angrily threw it into his spatial ring. He rolled his eyes and said, Swollen, I will remember this. Now that the thing is in my ring, I want to see how you are going to take it out of my ring. Li Chenglong rolled his eyes. As long as he got the thing, it was enough. As for how to take it out, he had his own plans. Boss, should we continue or take a break? Come, drink some water. Li Chenglong looked at him obsequiously. Humph. Shuo Duo became angrier the more he thought about it. He was careless and was treated as a long-term worker by this guy. He was going to die from anger. He had a feeling that this guy was up to something, but he couldn't figure out what his real purpose was. Where is my jade of astral souls? Shuo Duo stretched out his hand. Give it back. What jade of astral souls? Swollen asked in surprise. Cut the crap. Shuo Duo glared at him fiercely. You mean the black one you threw to me to lure the astral beasts away? Li Chenglong sighed. I led the astral beasts and ran for a long time. It was fine at first, but then I used up too much of my spiritual power. I had no choice but to absorb it while persevering. But I didn't expect it would be gone in a short while. Swollen laughed. Zwa, it is just a jade of astral souls. Why are you so nervous? I will compensate you with 10 mid-grade ones later. Aren't you generous enough to be my brother? Li Chenglong. Shuo Duo roared and charged forward in a fit of rage. Chapter 373. Bastard. That's the best quality jade of astral souls. How dare you touch it when it hasn't even reached the embryonic breathing realm? I'll tear apart your meridians. Are you going to hand it over or not? He grabbed Li Chenglong's neck and pressed him to the ground. Li Chenglong stuck out his tongue. It's really gone. Even if you beat me to death, it's gone. How could Swollen not recognize such a good item? Previously, when Shuo Duo gave Teacher Hu those, Swollen couldn't sleep for a few days. Now that it was in his hands, he actually wanted to take it back? No way. That was the price he had to pay for risking his life. Give me back the money for my ring. No. Give me back the jade of astral souls. No. Shda. He was beaten up ruthlessly. From this moment on all the way to Fenghai, Li Chenglong was basically kicked by Shuo Duo all the way. Swollen's miserable encounter along the way was simply heart-wrenching. Shuo Duo didn't intend to take back the jade of astral souls that he had thrown out. Swollen was his good brother, so what if he gave him one? No matter what, he wouldn't let an outsider benefit from it. However, this didn't stop him from using this as an excuse to beat Li Chenglong violently all the way. Moreover, he acted like a tyrant along the way, forcing Li Chenglong to do work. Whenever Li Chenglong disobeyed, he would reach out his hand. You're still blaming me for the ring, and you're still blaming me for the jade of astral souls. The problem is, if you're blaming me for it, then so be it. I'm magnanimous, but now you don't even want to do a little work? That's not justifiable. As soon as he said that, Li Chenglong had no choice but to submit obediently. Along the way, Li Chenglong served Shuo Duo well. Wherever he went, Shuo Duo would stretch his legs and act like a boss. Li Chenglong was the one who ran all the errands. He even massaged Shuo Duo's shoulders at night. When Swollen slightly disobeyed, Shuo Duo immediately said, my ring, my top-grade jade of astral souls. Hence, Li Chenglong, who was in the wrong, quickly worked obediently. It was only when Li Chenglong reached Fenghai City that he finally reacted. Fuck, you're actually using this piece of jade as my reward for working like a cow, a horse, and a punching bag, right? What do you think? Shuo Duo looked at the city gate of Fenghai City and snorted. When have I ever taken the initiative to take away my things? Wake up, little brother. Li Chenglong was dumbstruck. Shuo Duo. I'll never forgive you. Humph. Hurry up and find a place to stay. I want to stay in a clean suite. Hurry up. I'm not going. The money for my ring, my top-grade jade of astral souls. You heartless bastard. How many people can I hire to work for me if I sell them? You bastard. Boss, please wait a moment. I'll go now. Li Chenglong realized that although he understood it very well, he still couldn't resist this set of words. Sigh. I accept my fate. Fenghai City. Somewhere in the Wu family. That's Shuo Duo from the life and death arena. Are you sure he came to Fenghai City? A cold voice asked. Yes. Hidden Dragon High School? Yes. Not bad, not bad. This young man is really courageous. The cold voice said, pass down the order. No one is allowed to act rashly. Family head, this. Just pass down the order. Yes. Let all the family disciples who are studying in the Hidden Dragon High School gather in the main hall. After a long while, none of you are allowed to find trouble with Swordsmanship duo. That matter, it was our own family that went too far. Those who provoked him first deserve to die. Not to mention dying in the life and death arena, it's only natural. No revenge. Also, everyone in the Wu family, other than not being allowed to make things difficult for others, if you have the opportunity, you might as well make friends with them, understand? Swordsmanship duo is a talented person. His future is limitless. Instead of making enemies, it's better to make friends. At that time when you communicate, you might as well pass on my apology as the family head. Try to make friends with that Swordsmanship duo as much as possible. He just came to Fenghai City. There are many things he doesn't know about this city. You all should take care of him and help him. Also, girls in the family, if you like, you might as well take the initiative. If you can make Swordsmanship duo a family member, that would be a great thing. Does everyone understand the family's position? If you understand, then you may leave. The Wu family's gathering had caused a group of Hidden Dragon High School disciples to be at a loss as to what was going on. Did the family head lose his mind? That's our biggest enemy. He's the one who killed Yun Tian. Not only does he not want us to seek revenge, but he wants us to make friends with him. Also, girls in the family, if you like, take the initiative. This is simply at about the same time. The Gao family. The family head of the Gao family also gave a similar message. If it's not necessary, don't offend Swordsmanship duo. On the contrary, if you can make friends with him, do your best to do so. On the life and death arena, there is no resentment between life and death. Our Gao family shouldn't have any complaints, and we shouldn't hold any grudges and taint our state of mind. Swordsmanship duo is new here, so there must be many things he doesn't know. If you have the opportunity, you must take good care of him. You must not be hostile. If I find out that any of you are hostile, you will be expelled from the family immediately. The Gao family doesn't keep any family members with a bad state of mind. When the young disciples of the Gao family heard this high-sounding declaration, they were all dumbfounded. Something was amiss. Is what you said true, Patriarch? Are you serious? Are you really not joking? Everyone's ears were buzzing. No one could figure out what was wrong with the Patriarch. Wasn't he so angry that he almost vomited blood a few days ago? Could it be that in just a few days his cultivation had improved greatly, his realm had improved greatly, and his mind had become clear? And now he wants us to do the same. Bah, how is our state of mind not clear and our minds not clear? That night both families held a core family meeting at the same time. Let the family disciples make friends with Swordsmanship duo first. It's easy for young people to make friends with hot-blooded youths. The better the relationship, the more genuine it is, the better. Wait until we become friends, and the whole country has cleared their suspicions of us, then we'll make our move. When the time comes, we'll let him die a clean death. We'll use the excuse of avenging him and clearing our name to make friends with these martial arts teachers. How can we let him live after killing our people? But we have to turn killing him into an opportunity for us, and not provoke a powerful enemy. If we kill him, we can get strong support. This is the best choice. The children are ignorant and don't understand my real intention. This is our biggest weapon. Pay attention to the children. As long as there's a move, public opinion and evidence must follow. What we want is for the children to be ignorant. Even after Zhuoxiao's death, the children can't know. When the time comes when they face the investigation, they will be completely innocent and indignant. This is the most moving weapon. As for creating public opinion, if Swordsmanship duo is close to my girl, you can take photos and go online. Create something like the King of Swords is in love. There's no need to spread it. Leave it for the next day. Understand? When boys are together, it's easier to manipulate. Things like smiling and forgetting hatred, friendship between gentlemen, and so on. This may not cause public opinion, but there must be a lot of it in the future when it's needed. Don't just take photos of our family and Swordsmanship duo. Take photos of the daily life of Swordsmanship duo and the ordinary students. Introduce them in more detail. This is to show that our family is just incidental. The best. Swordsmanship duo and Li Chenglong are now at the peak of their popularity on the internet. Young people love to talk about them and are most interested in tracking them. So take photos and post them. This is going with the trend. Find some famous people on the internet or public accounts to do these things and guide them. From the beginning to the end, no matter what the situation is, no one in our family is allowed to show up. As long as there is a large number of intentional and unintentional things as evidence, when Duo dies in the future, even if it's just a keyboard warrior on the internet, it will be enough to clear our suspicion. Those people are actually very useful. With a little guidance, they will be more excited than we are. Let's do this. Yes, patriarch. Killing people is very easy, especially that kind of famous person. If you do the work well in advance, you can still bring benefits to yourself if you kill him. But if you don't do the work well in advance, killing him will lead to a disaster. And Duo is now such a famous person. Countless high-level martial artists, principals, and teachers of the major universities are all staring at him. His death has become a treasure trove. Not only do we have to kill him, we also have to get this treasure. This is called planning. Patriarch is wise. Hidden Dragon High Martial Arts. Zhang Xiaofei rushed into the principal's office like a whirlwind. Principal. Duo should have arrived. His face was full of excitement. The principal said very reservedly, if he's here, then he's here. No matter how talented he is, he's still just a student in the end. Is it worth it for you to be like this? What about being a teacher and being a teacher? No, I'm talking about the problem of his treatment. The most important thing is the problem of safety. After all, the matter of the life and death arena may not be without follow-up. We have to guard against this. What I mean is, Zhang Xiaofei said excitedly, there's an empty house near my house. Just right for. The principal said lightly, there's no need to consider these. The matter of the life and death arena is indeed a troublesome matter with endless follow-up. I'm afraid you alone can't protect everyone. There's one of the 2 villas next to my house that has always been empty. Just rent it to Duo and Li Chenglong. As for the rent, the principal frowned and thought for a while. It's definitely not appropriate to not accept it. But the students come from afar and don't have much money on hand. How about 50 yuan a month? It's not too much of a burden, right? The deadline is set to end after leaving the school? Zhang Xiaofei's excitement slowly turned into suspicion. Looking at the principal's indifferent, unperturbed and businesslike face, he finally frowned and said suspiciously, Principal, you don't have to do that, right? Requesting monthly votes. Recommendation votes. In addition, I'll listen to you and delete the prophecy in chapter 67. If there's anyone who scolds me in the future, you have to stand up for me. Chapter 374. What do you mean by that? We have to be responsible for the safety of the students. Xiaofei, your thinking is too simple and one-sided. The principal said calmly, only when the safety of the students is ensured can we, as teachers, be at ease. Alright, you go and do your work. It's not a big deal. It's just 2 students' accommodation, and you actually came to the principal's office to talk about it. I've already arranged it. Zhang Xiaofei swallowed his saliva. His eyes showed a bit of unwillingness. He wanted to say something but stopped. He dawdled and didn't leave. The principal didn't even lift his eyelids. He still said indifferently, is there anything else? Just say it. Zhang Xiaofei said in a very unhappy tone, Principal, Duo is a student that I've painstakingly snatched back. For this student, my reputation. I don't want to be a bitch. Super cheap. It's going to be very popular. You're snatching away my love like this. It's not appropriate, right? Snatching away my love like this. The principal frowned and looked unhappy. Mr. Zhang, what do you mean? I don't understand. Since the establishment of our school. He rattled off a bunch of school motto and then said earnestly, Mr. Zhang, the school is not a place to form cliques. You must have self-respect and self-discipline. This is the way to long-term stability. You must be careful in the future. Zhang Xiaofei was dizzy, but the anger in his heart rose uncontrollably. He said angrily, anyway, I feel that you're abusing your power for personal gain. The principal frowned and lowered his head. He looked at Zhang Xiaofei from above the lens. Zhang Xiaofei was indignant. He said, "This is clearly my student. Mine." I threw away my old face and charged at the competition. I snatched him from the hands of Yun Duan and Zhu Long. "I've worked so hard. Are you done?" The principal still looked at Zhang Xiaofei from above the lens. He said lightly, "Mr. Zhang, don't get your position wrong. You're in charge of recruiting students. You're so high and mighty. TSK, according to some saying, you're a delivery man. Recruiting students. Delivery man." Zhang Xiaofei only felt that his self-esteem had been severely damaged. A burst of anger rushed up. Then, he saw the principal pick up the school phone. "Finance Department. Teacher Zhang Xiaofei's performance will be suspended from this year onwards. Resources." "No." Zhang Xiaofei rushed over as fast as lightning and hung up the phone. His anger flew to the sky, and his face was full of flattery. Even his eyes were full of pleading. "Principal, I was wrong." The principal snorted twice, pointed at the phone, and said indifferently, "Zhang Xiaofei, do you know where this is? This is the principal's office. Understand? You want to act like a rogue in this room?" The principal snorted and shouted, "Wait until you become the principal." Then his eyes widened and he pointed outside the door now. Immediately. Right away. Scram. Zhang Xiaofei didn't really roll away. He just walked out with his tail between his legs and stopped behind the door. He heard the principal's cold snort behind him and couldn't help but shiver. He gently closed the door very considerately. There wasn't even a cracking sound, which showed how gentle it was. He took the elevator all the way down from the 33rd floor, and rushed to the toilet on the first floor. Then, a series of curses came out from the toilet like firecrackers. "Old bastard! You think you're so great just because you're the principal? You bully me. You still want me to be the principal? If I become the principal, I'll definitely be selfless. You're the perfect example of burning the bridge after crossing the river. You still want to be the principal, bah? People say I don't want to be a bitch, a super bitch. I think the old bastard is the one who really doesn't want to be a bitch who's invisible and traceless. Recruiting students, delivering goods. You can even fucking say that. If it weren't for the fact that I can't beat you. Fuck. 300 square meters of accommodation and 3,000 square meters of villa rent for 50 yuan a month. Why don't you give it to me? It's also very difficult for me to find a place to stay. In. Deadline before leaving school? Does this mean that if Swordsmanship Duo doesn't leave Hidden Dragon High School, he can continue to stay? Fuck, this scheme is too fucking deep. He can easily live for a lifetime. His intentions are terrible. Too shameless. In the time it took to pee, he scolded to his heart's content. Zhang Xiaofei only felt that his scolding was about to sublimate, and his whole body was refreshed. Just as he was pulling up his pants, a voice suddenly came from the partition next to him. "Brother Zhang, the person you're scolding is the principal?" Zhang Xiaofei suddenly felt a chill all over his body. The last bit of pee that was originally gone was actually scared out of his wits. Instantly, his crotch was wet, and he said with difficulty, "Who is old Xiang?" Cheerful laughter came from the other side. "Brother Zhang, I'm very tight on money this year. I can't eat anymore. Life is tough and the economic crisis is killing me. I'm hungry." Zhang Xiaofei's face twisted. "I'll treat you. I'll treat your whole family to food for a year. Thanks." Brother Zhang is indeed forthright. "After a year, I'll delete the recording just now. I won't keep any backups. I'll even delete the ones that are sent to the cloud drive." Fuck. On the day that Zhou Xiaoduo and Li Chenglong arrived at Fenghai City as scheduled, Zhou Xiaonian and Mu Yanyan were also about to arrive in Shangjing. As her master, Mu Yanyan was naturally escorting her disciple to the Nine Heavens Pavilion to report. 300 miles ahead is the boundary of Shangjing. At this point, there are basically not many large forests and wastelands that can contain star beasts. After all, this is the largest human gathering place on the mainland. Mu Yanyan heaved a sigh of relief and said, "Nyener, the Nine Heavens Pavilion is the true cradle of the core forces of the Yanwu Empire. It can even be said that it's the headquarters. Once you're there, you must work hard. The Nine Heavens Pavilion has always been a place where battle power speaks. Strength is respected. Although your talent is outstanding, you still have to be careful. I understand, Master. Master, I'm going to the Nine Heavens Pavilion. Where are you going? Back to the Kunlun Mountain Gate? Swaxiaonian asked. I've just broken through and need to stabilize my current realm for a period of time. I plan to stay in Shangjing for half a year and return to the gate after half a year. I'll rotate between the two places for half a year, Mu Yanyan said. Thank you, Master. Swaxiaonian understood that Master was still worried about her and wanted to stay in Shangjing to protect her. She couldn't help but feel grateful. Mu Yanyan smiled. With your cultivation foundation, I'm afraid it won't be long before you can surpass Master. At that time, you won't need Master's protection anymore. Nianer will always need Master's care. Swaxiaonian's eyes reddened. Just at this moment, suddenly, a hoarse voice said, Indeed, the relationship between Master and disciple is deep. Since you need each other so much, why don't you go to the underworld hand in hand and go to the 9 springs together? Ha ha. Both Master and disciple were shocked. They looked towards the direction of the voice and saw a black-clothed and masked figure appear out of thin air. From head to toe, he was covered in black cloth, and only his 2 eyes were exposed. Even his hair was not exposed. But this person was just floating in the air, as if he was stepping on flat ground. There was an awe-inspiring feeling. Mu Yanyan suddenly had an ominous premonition. This person was right above her head, and she didn't even notice. Then this person's cultivation. Was it above the God-reigning realm? Such a great master came to kill her and Swaxiaonian? Is he from the Umno Alliance? Mu Yanyan's eyes were sharp, and she shouted coldly. Good guess. The man wandered in the air and looked down. He had already spread out his divine sense and confirmed that there were no more masters within a radius of at least 500 miles. The 2 women below were dead today. Haha, so what if the Phoenix Pulse spirit succeeded? The black-clothed masked man walked down step by step from the air, as if there was an invisible ladder under his feet. He spoke as he walked, very calm and at ease. Do you really think you can live for a long time? What a joke. The Umno Alliance is really powerful. You must have been hiding in Shangjing for a long time, right? Mu Yanyan was very calm. She was trying hard to find an opportunity, any possible opportunity. It was unrealistic to break out and escape by force. Based on the strength shown by the other party, his speed must be much faster than hers. If she forced herself to move, she would only expose her flaws faster and be defeated in one blow. Now, her whole body was locked by momentum, and she might not even be able to give a warning. Mu Yanyan, I know you are not reconciled, but why don't you try and see if you can save your disciple from me? The black-clothed man sneered, and 2 hands stretched out from the black robe. They were white and slender. He clapped his hands and said lightly, Now you can think of a way. Mu Yanyan closed her eyes and then opened them. Her face was shining, and she said lightly, Nianer, when the battle breaks out, you have to rush to Shangjing with all your strength at the first time. While rushing, give a warning. In this way we will have a chance to survive. Don't worry about anything. Swaxiaonian held the sword in her hand and said calmly, Okay. Swaxiaonian's character had always been calm, straightforward and decisive. She would never do something like, I won't go. If we go together. She was decisive, and she had her own choice of life and death. Swaxiaonian had always been the kind of person who was very clear. Her eyes were filled with extreme pain. The best outcome today was that one of the master and disciple survived. Even the 2 of them could not survive. She already knew what Mu Yanyan was going to do. In the face of such an enemy, the only thing Mu Yanyan could do was to blow herself up to create a powerful attack, giving Swaxiaonian a chance to escape. The so-called in this way, we will have a chance to survive, was Mu Yanyan's last resort in case Swaxiaonian refused to escape alone. In fact, Swaxiaonian understood this point, and so did Mu Yanyan. So Swaxiaonian chose to accept this only chance, the last chance. Swaxiaonian also thought about blowing herself up to create a chance for her master, but her cultivation was too weak. Even if she forced herself to blow herself up, it would be difficult to cause considerable damage to the enemy, Or it would not even be a trouble. In that case, both of them would be dead. Only when Mu Yanyan blew herself up could they have a chance. This was the reality. On the battlefield between life and death, it was a choice that countless soldiers had to face. This was not cold-bloodedness, but the cruelty of the choice. Because at this time there was only one choice, whose death was more valuable. But there was no choice, whose life was more valuable. Now there are 4,929 votes. Let's update the second chapter when there are 5,000 votes. According to past experience, 70 votes should take about 3 hours. I can write it. Chapter 375. Mu Yanyan and Zhou Xiaonian were ready. Mu Yanyan took a deep breath, and her beautiful face was shining with light. She stared at the man in black and said lightly, "People of the Kunlun Taoist sect don't fear death. Self-explosion to stop me? Try it." The man in black smiled faintly. Suddenly, a figure rushed to Mu Yanyan, and at the moment when he moved, another figure rushed to Zhou Xiaonian at the same time. This was an attack from two sides at the same time. "You want to stop my attack by self-explosion?" The man in black laughed lightly. "Mu Yanyan, you think too simply of me, and underestimate the power of a high-level practitioner." Mu Yanyan had no intention of self-explosion at this moment. With a scream she turned into a mass of blue light and rushed to Zhou Xiaonian. According to Mu Yanyan's judgment, Zhou Xiaonian was no match for the latter doppelganger. She might even be killed if they fought. But the man in black moved faster and blocked Mu Yanyan's way. With only one or two moves, Mu Yanyan was forced into a disadvantageous position. Between his movements, the blue light surrounded him. He had reached the level of star power. Mu Yanyan was full of despair. She looked up to the sky and screamed. But this scream was sealed in the space and could not be transmitted out. On the other side, Zhou Xiaonian staggered. After only one move, the long sword in her hand was knocked away, and she staggered back. The man in black laughed grimly. His body flashed and he appeared directly in front of Zhou Xiaonian. Like a gust of wind, he slapped the Zhou Xiaonian on the head. Bang! Zhou Xiaonian's body fell to the ground without a sound. Mu Yanyan was scared out of her wits. For a moment she only felt disheartened. She shouted like a ghost, "Nian!" Mu Yanyan had decided to launch a self-explosion. She wanted to hurt the enemy at the cost of her own life. But, at this moment, however, the man in black seemed to have noticed something. He suddenly retreated and looked at Zhou Xiaonian's body in shock. His eyes were filled with fear, because the palm he just sent out hit Zhou Xiaonian's head. Even if Mu Yanyan was hit by this palm, her head would only be smashed into pieces. However, the reality was that although Zhou Xiaonian had collapsed to the ground, her head seemed to be completely fine. The man in black could clearly feel that Zhou Xiaonian was not injured at all. How was this possible? What was going on? At this moment of doubt and astonishment, something suddenly rose from Zhou Xiaonian's shoulder. Mu Yanyan and the black-clothed masked man both looked at the sudden turn of events in shock. Their minds were in chaos. Of course, Mu Yanyan was full of surprise, while the man in black felt surprised and horrified. That was a palm. An illusory palm floated up from Zhou Xiaonian's shoulder and floated into the air. Then, little by little, it became solid and huge. Then all of a sudden the palm expanded rapidly and became extremely huge. Then it disappeared. Only a majestic and strong figure suddenly stood in the air. He was wearing a white battle robe and combat boots. He was 2 meters tall, with a rough face and a majestic figure. Mu Yanyan blurted out, "Marshal Nan?" For a moment her mind suddenly went blank. The eyes of the black-clothed masked man in the air flashed with extreme fear. He was so frightened that he almost fell to the ground. What was the origin of this spiritual goddess? Why did she have Marshal Nan's divided soul shadow? Why was this? Who could tell me why? This was the rhythm of sending me to my death. In the air, Uncle Nan's shadow locked his eyes on the black-clothed masked man. He looked disappointed and said, "You have finally been activated. Why is it such a small shrimp? What a pity." His body suddenly burst out with a dazzling light, illuminating the whole world. He shouted, "Come, die." He reached out and grabbed With a flash of silver light, he had already caught the fleeing body of the black-clothed masked man in his hand. It was as if he was picking a flower or taking something out of his pocket. It was as if he had done it casually. Mu Yinyan didn't understand at all. They were clearly dozens of meters apart, and the black-clothed masked man had moved first, fleeing far away at top speed. How was it that with just a stretch of his hand, the other party was caught in the palm of his hand, and all the bones in his body were broken? With a poof, the black-clothed masked man's blood was squeezed out. He was completely crippled. Like a pile of rotten meat, he was thrown beside Mu Yanyan. Although he was on the verge of death, he still had a breath left in him. Take this guy back to the Nine Heavens Pavilion for interrogation. Uncle Nan's shadow finally said this sentence. Then with a flash of silver light, it rippled like water and disappeared completely in the air. It didn't turn into a palm print and returned to Zhuo Xiaonian's shoulder. This palm print should only have the power of one attack. But this time it was enough to keep one's life safe and sound in any harsh environment. Mu Yinyan was naturally pleasantly surprised at this moment. She murmured but couldn't speak. From despair to great joy, the situation had reversed so quickly, so suddenly. For a moment she even felt a little dizzy. She went over to check on Zhuo Xiaonian and confirmed that she was really fine. She just fainted slightly. She woke up after pinching her philtrum. Mu Yinyan really wanted to ask, how did Marshal Nan leave a doppelganger shadow on your body? This was an enormous favor, and a fate even greater than the heavens. But after thinking about it, she didn't ask. It was a good thing to have it. So what if it was a fate greater than the heavens? What was the point of asking? If Marshal Nan was angry, not to mention her, even the Kunlun Taoist sect couldn't bear it. Master? We're fine. How can it be? Zhuo Xiaonian woke up immediately. After being confused for half a second, she reacted. Not only are we fine, but we also got a great benefit. Mu Yanyan smiled bitterly and said, this half-dead man is the one who attacked us just now. Let's go, we'll take him to the Nine Heavens Pavilion. She wanted to let Zhuo Xiaonian report by herself, but now Mu Yanyan was more and more worried. What if someone tried to kill her on the way? This master from the Umno Alliance was very strong and had a high status. If he had accomplices, they had to be careful. Moreover, this was sent by Zhuo Xiaonian. It was a great merit. It meant that they had done a great merit before even entering. It was really a gift from the heavens. Mu Yanyan was now a little jealous of her disciple's luck. A great merit had fallen from the heavens. The master and disciple carried the masked man's body that was almost smashed to pieces. They even kindly helped him treat his injuries to ensure that he would not die for a while. Only then did they carefully sneak into Shangjing City. Nine Heavens Pavilion. Report. This is the one who tried to kill you on the way? People from the Umno Alliance? Suddenly a large group of people rushed out. Looking at the injury, an old man directly gasped. This is the hand of Elder Nan? What good luck. Looking at this silver Xian Yuan Qi, it could only be Minister Nan. What good luck, girl. The old man called a little girl to accompany Zhuo Xiaonian to report, and then accompanied Mu Yanyan to bring the masked man into the secret room of the Nine Heavens Pavilion. From beginning to end, they didn't take off the mask of the masked man. It was better not to expose this person's identity in public. If it was spread out, there would be a lot of trouble. The old man was undoubtedly very thoughtful. It's okay. I don't think you need to know this person's identity, the old man said to Mu Yanyan without lifting his eyelids. Kunlun Taoist sect, right? Go back. Mu Yanyan coughed and didn't have any doubts. In the future, please take care of my disciple. As she spoke, she took out a space ring and gently pushed it over. Just a little something, please don't take it to heart. The old man turned to look at the space ring, and a strange smile appeared on his face. You want to bribe me to take care of your disciple? No, just a little something, a little something. I'll count to 3 if you don't take it back. I'll immediately punish you for trying to disintegrate the Nine Heavens Pavilion. 1, 2. No. I'll take it back. Mu Yanyan grabbed the ring back, and the smile on her face had already become very awkward. Humph, your Kunlun Taoist sect has been very proficient in this so-called flexible method these years. Look at you, a young girl, and you actually sent a gift to me. The old man looked Mu Yanyan up and down and said disdainfully, at your age, it's already strange that you've just broken through to the cloud transformation stage. What's more strange is that you still have the face to come to the Nine Heavens Pavilion to send a gift. Go, if you can break through to the God reigning stage in 2 years, then you'll be qualified to send me a bottle of wine. Thank you for your kindness. Not only was Mu Yanyan not angry, but she was even more excited. She bowed deeply and left. This was leaving a door open for her? Breaking through to the God reigning stage in 2 years could also enter the Nine Heavens Pavilion? Mu Yanyan understood the true meaning of this hint very well. And this qualification was probably the reward for capturing the Black Masked Man and sending it over. When the Nine Heavens Pavilion recruited disciples, the most important thing was aptitude. The disciples recruited were basically the indigenous geniuses of the Astral Souls continent. Under normal circumstances, they would rarely recruit people who already had a sect background, such as the people of the Kunlun Taoist sect. And this qualification given by the old man was extremely precious to Mu Yanyan, or to the Kunlun Taoist sect. But 2 years of God reigning stage. Mu Yanyan was a little melancholy. This goal was not only difficult, but also extremely difficult. However, at this point, if she did not work harder, she would miss the opportunity. Mu Yanyan left a letter for Zhou Xiaonian and left Shangjing almost without stopping. She went all the way back to the Kunlun Taoist sect. Practice, practice, practice day and night. Practice with all her might. He had to try his best to reach the God reigning realm within 2 years, even if it was the greatest possibility. Zhou Xiaonian was led to the first floor of the Nine Heavens Pavilion. There was a practice room, or rather, a fighting arena. It did not look big from the outside, but after entering, she found that the inside was bigger than she imagined. Zhou Xiaonian immediately realized that this Nine Heavens Pavilion must be the work of a powerful person who cultivated space techniques. There were only 2 words at the door: Elixir Pavilion. It's too fast. I haven't even eaten much. Cough. Besides, if you don't understand this chapter, go back to the first chapter, chapter 74. I won't explain much. I wanted to set this plot in the second chapter, chapter 74. In the end, it's only chapter 71. It's a little uncomfortable. It's not designed carefully. Sigh. Besides, once this chapter is out, if anyone says that fathers and mothers don't care about the life and death of their children, I will really start scolding them. It's okay if you can't tell that it's a congenital IQ problem, but if you write it clearly and scold them, it's too much. Chapter 376. Go in. There are 10 sets of challenge numbers from 1 to 10. You can choose any one of them. As long as you can defeat one of them, you can stay. Zhuolingnian. Well, there was a need to explain that Zhou Xiaonian's real name outside was actually Zhuolingnian. This was also the origin of the goddess of spiritual thoughts. In a sense, Zhou Xiaonian and Zhuolingnian were 2 separate people, almost 2 different people. Zhou Xiaonian didn't say much. She just nodded. She was only lively and cute in front of her family, and sometimes even eccentric. But in front of outsiders, she was always an iceberg. No one dared to approach her. It was lonely at the top. Especially after practicing the Moon Sutra, Zhou Xiaonian's temperament became more and more cold and noble. She was like a pure lotus on top of an unreachable iceberg. The little girl who led her here had a strange feeling from time to time. Even if she walked beside this girl, she seemed to pollute the air. She was so far behind and felt ashamed of her inferiority. So when she led her here, she didn't stay at all and ran away. It was too much of a blow to her self-esteem. When she was in school, she was also the campus belle. Zhou Xiaonian pushed the door open and entered. Without hesitation, she chose the first level. After a round of battles, she passed smoothly. If you feel that you still have energy left, you can choose to continue to challenge the remaining levels. A voice said. Zhou Xiaonian's current strength had already exceeded the limits of her current age and rank. She was able to steamroll through the 10 groups of challengers. She broke through with irresistible force. In the end, goddess of spiritual thoughts, is it? Please wait a moment. The attitude of the voice was much more respectful than at the beginning. This was a recognition of her strength, and also another way of showing that strength was respected. Swishounian stood coldly in the cultivation room and waited. In the almost 1,000-square-meter cultivation room, hundreds of people were secretly looking at her from all directions. At this moment, everyone had a consensus. This time, Heaven Pavilion had really sent a monster. This was the sentence that everyone said the most. The old man was treating the black-clothed masked man's injuries when someone knocked on the door. Elder Long, the manager of the first floor, requests an audience. What is it? The spiritual thought heavenly maiden who just arrived defeated all 10 testers. However, her current cultivation is only at the Dan core stage. According to the rules, she can't enter the second level of the nascent soul stage. How should we deal with this situation? The administrator outside reported in a panic. This was the first time he had encountered such a situation. He had no experience with it at all, so he had no idea how to deal with it. When the old man heard this report, he was really surprised. No way, right? Wasn't the current tester number 10 Lu Mingyang, who had suppressed him 7 times in the embryonic breathing realm? He was already at the peak of the origin core realm, and was a half-step into the nascent soul transformation realm. That girl had even defeated Lu Mingyang? You still have the strength to continue the challenge? Elder Long pondered. Yes, she defeated tester number 10 and... Outside, the administrator's face twitched. Furthermore, he didn't use any weapons. Number 10, on the other hand, had already flashed his saber from the start. Lu Mingyang who used the knife? That means he used his full strength to the limit, which means he didn't lose due to carelessness. Elder Long pondered for a moment and threw out a token. Rules are meant to be broken. Since she has such strength and still has the strength to continue the test, bring her to the second level of the nascent soul stage to continue the test. Okay. 2 hours later. The administrator of the first level and the administrator of the second level came down together. Elder Long. The 2 administrators called out together. What's the matter now? Elder Long was very impatient. Zwilingyan defeated 9 out of the 10 testers on the second level. Number 10 of the nascent soul stage is out on a mission today, so he's not in the testing area. This situation. How should we deal with it? The 2 administrators asked, wiping their sweat. Elder Long finally gave up on studying the black-clothed masked man. He stuffed an elixir into his mouth and walked out with a frown. You mean a Dan core stage? Defeated all 10 testers in the nascent soul stage? She defeated 9 of them? She didn't fight with number 10 just because he wasn't there? I'm old. Did I hear wrongly? Elder Long rubbed his ears subconsciously. You didn't hear wrongly. That's the truth. That's why we came here to ask you about the follow-up plan. Elder Long's eyes flashed with disbelief. He turned around and walked to the table, turned on the computer, and pulled up all the battle test videos of Swishounian so far. He watched very quickly, almost fast-forwarding the whole process. Until the end, he finally gritted his teeth and murmured, "This time it's really a treasure." She only started to use her sword when she defeated number 5 of the nascent soul stage. When she defeated number 9, she still had the strength to spare. With her strength, even if number 10 was here, he might not be able to stop her. Elder Long frowned and really felt that it was difficult to deal with. According to the rules of the 9 Heavens Pavilion, there was a strength assessment every month. Based on your cultivation base, you could get resources from that position. Correspondingly, you also had to perform the corresponding tasks for that position. The tasks on each level were different, and each level was harder than the previous. Each level was harder than the previous one. The difficult part about Swishounian was that although her real strength was amazing, and had almost exceeded the limit of the nascent soul stage, her real cultivation base was only at the elixir realm. How were they going to arrange tasks for her? No wonder the 2 administrators felt that it was difficult to deal with, and came here to ask for Elder Long's opinion. Elder Long hesitated and said, "Special people should be treated differently. Since her real strength is at the peak of the nascent soul stage, she will be given the allowance of the second level. However, she will still be assigned tasks according to her real cultivation base. Well, she will temporarily perform the tasks on the first level. After 2 months, we will see the follow-up progress and make targeted adjustments." This was equivalent to increasing the resource advantage by a large level. The administrator of the second level looked unwilling, but the administrator of the first level was full of joy. The completion of the tasks would be recorded in the performance of the two administrators. With Zhuo Xiaonian's cultivation base on the first level, almost all the tasks' performance would fall from the sky. What's the code name, Elder Long? The administrator of the first level returned the favor and worked hard to fight for Zhuo Xiaonian's benefits. Generally, once the geniuses of the Nine Heavens Pavilion reached a certain level, they would be given code names by the higher-ups. It was different from the order of number 1 and number 2. Zhuo Xiaonian had obviously reached this level and surpassed it by a lot. Code name. Elder Long was suddenly stunned. Her surname is Zhuo? Yes, Elder Long muttered to himself and murmured. This surname is not often seen. What about her personal file? Let me see. He muttered in his heart. Her surname is Zhuo? And Minister Nan even helped me. I don't know if it was intentional or not. Although I'm not at the level of Minister Nan, I don't want to get the wrong code name. If I get beaten up because it doesn't sound good, it won't be worth it. Although the possibility was very small, what if it happened? Not long after, Zhuo Xiaonian's personal file was brought over. This information was very detailed and could be said to be very detailed. Name, home address, parents' names and occupations, younger brother's name and occupation, resume, comments. And the matter of the Phoenix Pulse spirit, that everything was recorded clearly and clearly. Even the nickname Yin Yin Cat was recorded. Could be said to be very detailed. Yes, her family background is very ordinary. When Elder Long saw the two names Wu Chonglu and Wu Yuding in the parent column, he couldn't help but feel relieved. He said, the degree of this girl's talent can really be said to be one of the best. Yes, she's probably the spiritual goddess that was rumored some time ago. The commotion over at Phoenix City was very big. It's reasonable that Minister Nan would give some benefits and leave some protection measures after knowing about it. There's no need to think too much. Codename Spiritual Cat. Elder Long made a prompt decision and said with a smile, Spiritual Goddess, nickname Yin Yin Cat. Not bad, not bad. Let's just call her Spiritual Cat. Okay, understood. Transfer the file back and seal it according to Grade A, Elder Long said. Grade A seal number 1. The original order will be changed. Okay. Grade A seal meant that she was a first-class genius. It's okay, you can go do your work. Elder Long turned back and continued to do his work. The spy that Chief Nan asked the Kunlun Taoist sect to send was very important. He had to discuss it carefully with the pavilion masters in front of him later. The injury was really too serious. His body and limbs were destroyed, and his dantian and meridians were damaged. He was very lucky that he was still alive now. But this guy was a spirit control cultivator. Even if his dantian and meridians were damaged, his divine sense still existed. It was still possible for him to recover some cultivation and then commit suicide. So now he didn't dare to let this guy wake up directly. But if his divine sense was destroyed, this person's consciousness would also be destroyed and he would become a living dead. He still wouldn't be able to get any useful information out of him. It was very troublesome. Elder Long vaguely felt that he seemed to have overlooked something, but he couldn't figure out what it was at the moment, so he put it aside. He's ranked 9th, but he worries about boss every day. Elder Long felt that he was a miserable person. Zhuo Xiaonian settled down in the Nine Heavens Pavilion just like that. And other than a slight internal fluctuation, there was nothing unusual. It was too peaceful. It could be described as calm and tranquil. Zhuo Xiaoduo and Li Chenglong had already checked into the Hidden Dragon High School guest house, opposite the Hidden Dragon High School. With the admission letter, they could stay here for free. Not only were the meals and accommodation free, even the ordinary training grounds were free. And as long as they stayed here from a certain perspective, they were already halfway to completing their registration. September 28th. There were still 3 days before school started. How are we going to spend these 3 days? The training grounds in the guest house are free, but the facilities are almost completely meaningless to us. Li Chenglong asked, how are we going to spend these days? Zhuo Xiaoduo snorted. You can spend these 3 days however you want. I won't waste them. As he spoke, he took out 1,000 pieces of mid-grade jade of astral souls and pretended to be indifferent. Anyway, This is what I plan to do for these 3 days. Use the fragments of astral souls to bury myself. Chapter 377. This suggestion is not bad. Let's see who gets buried first. Li Chenglong was not to be outdone. He also placed 1,000 pieces of mid-grade astral souls jade at the auction. As their cultivation increased, Swishaoduo and Li Chenglong's consumption of the jade of astral souls also increased. Originally, when Swishaoduo was a martial warrior, he could not even absorb 1 piece of low-grade jade in 3 days. But now, if he were to put all his effort into cultivation, 200 pieces of mid-grade jade in a day was simply not enough. To put it bluntly, cultivation was an extremely expensive business. If one were to calculate the market price of mid-grade astral souls jade at 20,000 star dollars, 4 million a day would not be enough. If one were to use the monetary system of an ordinary person to calculate, the monetary system would have completely collapsed. This was why people often said that in this world, there were 2 heavens and earth. This was the logic behind it. The vast majority of people lived their entire lives in the first heaven. As for what the second heaven was like, they couldn't even imagine. The people in the Hidden Dragon High Martial Arts guest house were also very puzzled. These 2 people were ranked first and second in this year's batch of students. From the first day they checked in, the entire Hidden Dragon High Martial Arts guest house knew about them. The entire school was waiting for these 2 to report. In the end, after these 2 people came to the guest house, they did not even leave their rooms. They did not even go to the cafeteria to eat, let alone report. There was actually a misunderstanding, or rather a misunderstanding. The notice stated that they would report before the 1st of October. However, Swishaoduo and Li Chenglong instinctively understood it as report on the 1st of October. This was probably a misunderstanding. The 2 of them even felt that it was strange. Why is it that such a big hostel doesn't have any students coming to register? Could it be that all the students chose to report on the 1st of October? Or was Hidden Dragon High Martial Arts guest house on the verge of closing down? They could not recruit any students at all? This was impossible, right? But these had nothing to do with the 2 of them. From the beginning to the end, the 2 of them were only slightly surprised for a moment before they began to concentrate on their cultivation. Until the afternoon of the 3rd day. Zhang Xiaofei and another teacher quietly went to Swishaoduo and Li Chenglong's window and peeked in. They saw the 2 of them sitting on the same bed with their backs leaning against each other. They were leaning against each other with no distance between them. Other than that, the entire room was covered in powder. Were those fragments of the jade of astral souls? The debris around Li Chenglong's body reached his chest, while the debris around Swishaoduo's body reached his neck. What are they doing? Cultivation? Or is it something else? Zhang Xiaofei was confused. Swollen, you've lost, Swishaoduo said proudly as he continued to practice. Not necessarily. Li Chenglong closed his eyes and channeled all his energy. He said, aren't you hungry? Hurry up and eat or you'll starve to death. I'm going to eat? Then I'll shake off the debris on my body and you'll win? Swishaoduo snorted. In your dreams. I'm only 1 step away from burying everything. Victory is at hand, and you want me to give up. Then what about the joke you told me just now that made me shake it off? Li Chenglong argued, unwilling to give in. Who told you to laugh? Swishaoduo said proudly, I just said it casually, but you laughed as if you had asthma. Are you blaming me? Besides, even if you didn't shake off your body, you're still a lot weaker than me. Li Chenglong said angrily, that's what I'm angry about. You know that I'm a lot weaker than you, but you still play dirty and told jokes. Do you have any integrity, dignity, and position? Swishaoduo said leisurely, the more money, the better. The higher the cultivation, the better. This is also applicable when competing with others. That is, the greater the advantage, the better. Li Chenglong was speechless. You're really the Sword King. You still want to play dirty when competing with your own people. You're really dirty. Li Chenglong said bitterly. Outside, Zhang Xiaofei was even more speechless. These 2 fellows had clearly arrived early. Why didn't they report to school? Instead, they were holed up in the guest house's room. Practicing martial arts and competing? What kind of trick was this? They couldn't have forgotten about the registration, right? If they kept delaying and really delayed the registration, according to the rules, Hidden Dragon High Martial Arts School couldn't accept them. Thinking of this, Zhang Xiaofei went to the front door and knocked. Li Chenglong's voice came from inside. Who is it? It's me. Zhang Xiaofei was speechless. Zhang Xiaofei. Teacher Zhang is here. The door opened. When he went in to take a look, he saw that the room was clean. There was no trace of the mess just now. Presumably, even the dregs were kept in the ring. Xiaoduo, why didn't you report to school when you came? Zhang Xiaofei was very amiable. Isn't it October 1st? Xiaoduo was confused. It can be earlier? Zhang Xiaofei felt that there was a raging storm in his heart. With this understanding ability, they were actually the champion of the Longhu ranking competition. Moreover, they were the captain and the vice-captain. They couldn't be fakes, right? It seems that it said that you can report before October 1st, right? There's no rule that you can only report on October 1st. Moreover, October 1st is the last day of the registration period. If you don't report on this day, Zhang Xiaofei was speechless. Xiaoduo was as if he was struck by lightning. Li Chenglong's eyes widened. Then the two took out the admission notice. Then Xiaoduo flew into a rage. Li Chenglong, what's wrong with your head? You can even misunderstand this? Li Chenglong felt that he was being wronged. It's not October 1st that you said. Why are you arguing with me for so long? Anyway, it's your fault. We almost missed the school's registration period. Xiaoduo started to clean up and said, Teacher Zhang, please wait a moment. This is all Li Chenglong's fault. This guy's brain has been a little muddled since he was young. He's been studying until he became stupid. We'll report to school now. Hearing this, Li Chenglong really wanted to beat someone to death. However, this wasn't a good time to argue about these details. He swallowed his anger and said, all right, it's my fault, it's my fault. Zhang Xiaofei coughed and resisted the urge to laugh. He went out of the room and waited. However, he didn't have to wait for long. In just 10 seconds, the two had already walked out with bright and handsome faces. Even the smiles on their faces were simple and honest. Teacher, it's been hard on you. We'll report to school now. Zhang Xiaofei's face was full of kindness. Let me bring you there. Looking at the extremely simple and honest smiles on the two guys' faces, and their seemingly honest and harmless expressions, Zhang Xiaofei thought after that big competition, his understanding was refreshed again and again. These were 2 old silver coins, and the kind that was especially black-hearted. If anyone still believed in the innocence on their faces, he reckoned that they would help raise the price even if they were sold. Looking at the 2 guys obediently following behind him, their faces honest and sincere, their eyes looking straight ahead and following the rules. There was even a look of fear and trepidation. Zhang Xiaofei actually had a feeling for a moment. It was as if he was leading a big tiger and a big lion, slowly walking into a sheep pen. This kind of feeling was extremely clear. It seems that the students of Hidden Dragon High School are going to have an unusual experience. The so-called life experience, the beating of society, is about to come. Zhang Xiaofei was looking forward to the future. When others came to report, they had to pay the tuition fees, get a bed, put down their bedding, and then report to the class. After everything was stable, they had to think of ways to earn credits. The entire process. As for Xiaoduo and Li Chenglong, when they reported, they received their scholarships, then went to a luxurious villa to settle down, put down their luggage, collect their credits, and finally, their homeroom teacher came to welcome them. He brought the 2 treasures to his class. There was nothing unexpected. Hidden Dragon High School, 1st grade, Class 1. The whole class, 36 people. The others had already sat in their respective seats. Only the 2 best seats in the front row were still empty. Those were reserved for Xiaoduo and Li Chenglong. One was first, the other was second. Absolutely the treatment of a seed. It had to be said that when Xiaoduo and Li Chenglong walked into the class, the 2 of them were greeted by 34 students suddenly stood up at the same time. Nearly 20 people, their momentum was amazing. Then these people shouted in surprise, "Hello, leader. Hello, Sword King." Xiaoduo was dumbfounded. Li Chenglong was also dumbfounded. This Was this the headquarters of Li Qinglong's Iron God sect? The homeroom teacher behind him was speechless. This time's enrollment actually attracted a group of Iron God sect? Sit down, sit down. Zuo you sit here. Li Qinglong you sit here. The homeroom teacher cut the Gordian knot and didn't give the Iron God sect members a chance to exchange greetings. Now everyone in our class is finally here. The homeroom teacher said, "Let me introduce myself first. My surname is Wan and my name is Wan Xingtian. I am your homeroom teacher. Well, now I'm considered a god-reigning cultivator." Hearing this introduction, the students' faces immediately lit up. High martial arts was indeed different. The homeroom teacher was directly a god-reigning cultivator. What were their cultivations? Innate stage? Embryonic stage? This gap was like heaven and earth apart. Then let's start from number 1 and do a simple self-introduction. When Xingtian looked at Zuo Duo was ranked first, so it naturally started with him. Teacher 1 was actually looking forward to it. This person could already be regarded as a world-famous talent. He would definitely bring a big surprise to him. Teacher 1 had even confirmed Zuo Duo before he came. In his class, the position of class monitor was definitely Zuo Duo, and the position of assistant class monitor was naturally the second in line, Li Qinglong. This pair of old partners would definitely bring a new atmosphere to his class. And Zuo self-introduction was the first step for Zuo Duo to show himself and convince the students. The ladder has been set up for you. Student Zuo Duo, please come on stage and perform. Teacher 1 was looking forward to it. The captain and vice-captain of the champion of the Longhu list would definitely bring him a surprise. Now, he was just waiting to see the captain's supreme demeanor. End of the 4th watch. Please give me monthly votes and recommendation votes to comfort my wounded heart today. Chapter 378. Zuo face was full of smiles as he stood up. Coupled with his handsome face, his tall and slender body, he looked elegant and graceful. However, this guy's eyes were rolling around. He had his own plans. There was only one purpose. I can't be the class monitor. On the way, Zhang Xiaofei had already secretly revealed to Zuo Duo, "You will definitely be the class monitor, and your future head teacher has already selected you as the class monitor." Zhang Xiaofei had good intentions and also wanted to give Zuo Duo a surprise in advance. It was a good thing that the class monitor had been selected. Who didn't know that the class monitor of high school would be a great talent no matter where he went in the future? However, no one dared to look down on the title of class monitor of Gaowu High School. This was an extremely glorious qualification of being a student. Even at the front line, those who had been class monitors of high school would be looked at differently the moment they came up. They would be entrusted with important tasks, treated as talents, and nurtured as future stars. At least their organizational and management skills were super strong. There was no doubt about this. Therefore, in Zhang Xiaofei's opinion, this was a great thing. However, Zuo Duo was scared. "You want me to be the class monitor? I won't do it, I won't do it." He had been the class monitor of the martial arts class for 5 years. He was basically like a nanny. His impression was unimaginably deep. "You want me to be the class monitor here? I won't do it. Wouldn't it be better if I practiced and became stronger? Class monitor? There were too many things to do." In this kind of high school, teachers basically didn't care much. Basically, everything was done by the class monitor. This point, Zuo Duo had already inquired about it. Although the class monitor had a lot of power and a bright future, but it was too troublesome. Masters didn't want to make things so troublesome. Besides, with Masters with strength, why would he care about this little bit of experience? What a joke. Zuo Duo stole a glance at the head teacher. Although he looked refined and his eyes were full of encouragement and expectation, his eyebrows were very thick and his aura was a bit heavy. Great. This face is similar to Qin Fengyang. His temper should be very bad, right? And he looks very decent, not a bad person. Cough cough, it's good that he's not a bad person. Since he's a good person, he might just scold me a few words later. He probably won't beat me up. Zuo Duo calmed down. Zuo Duo only glanced at him. Under Mr. Wen's expectant gaze, he calmly walked to the podium. He stood with his head held high and his chest puffed out. He revealed a smile that showed 8 snow-white teeth. Hello, students. My name is Wuxia Duo. Hello, Sword King. Below, many people, including Li Chenglong, shouted their greetings in unison. Teacher Wen was speechless. Wuxia Duo should be able to stop this, right? He turned his head and saw Wuxiao's smug face. He said, students, we are all classmates. Don't mention the Jianghu title in such a formal occasion. It's unbearable to recall the past. The Jianghu is the Jianghu and the academy is the academy. If you can avoid mixing the two together, try not to. When Xingtian felt as if a flock of crows were flying over his head. What kind of opening speech was this? Although he was trying to stop it, this did not seem right. Just now Mr. Wen said it well. My enemies are basically gathered in this class. Wuxia Duo shook his head and smiled bitterly. He paced back and forth on the podium. This bitter smile, no matter how one looked at it, gave off a subtle feeling of a villain swaying his head and wagging his tail. Anyway, it was extremely disharmonious. When Xingtian faintly had an ominous premonition, the eyes of the people below were burning with anger. Obviously, they were dissatisfied and angry. This guy was showing off, wasn't he? Did Mr. Wen say that? Since when did Teacher Wen say such a thing? Mr. Wen also said that there are a lot of beauties in our class. Wuxia Duo smiled. On the other side, when Xingtian was still smiling kindly. However, his hands behind his back were rubbing each other. His hands were itchy. He wanted to move. There are so many people here. I know all of them and many of them are acquaintances. Ha ha ha. Wuxia Duo laughed. Well, Xiangbing, although we are opponents, the one who hit you mercilessly was Li Chenglong, not me. If you want to seek revenge, this guy is here. Well, you can't blame it on me later. And you Yan Li Zhongming isn't here and we haven't met yet. Instead of glaring at me, why don't you sleep a little longer? Who knows, maybe we'll meet in your dreams. Zhen Piapiao. Haha, we are friends. Other than Zhen Piapiao, who nodded slightly, Yu Yan'er and Xiangbing were glaring at each other. Their beautiful eyes were about to spit fire. Was this guy speaking human language? Was he speaking human language? What did he mean by blame it on later? And what did he mean by meet in your dreams? Was he speaking human language? After saying that, he had offended 2 of the 3 beauties. Student Xiangchong is also here. You really can't blame me for beating you up. That beating was really. Haha, we're classmates. Well, I didn't expect you to be so useless. You are in the same class as your sister. Shouldn't you be 1 level higher as her brother? Wuxia Duo continued to taunt him. We are twins. The same age. Xiangchong was so angry that he wanted to take out his sky piercer and fight with this bastard. TSK. Twins, that's good. Just pretend I didn't say anything. Hey, Pai Bao. Ha ha ha. Wuxia Duo was overjoyed. I have a deep impression of you. Everyone turned their heads and looked at Pai Bao's wrinkled face. Pai Bao looked at this bastard with a twisted face. This bastard was indeed the Sword King. He was so despicable. What the fuck? Meng Zhongjun, your whole team is here? What are you all doing? Wuxia Duo said in surprise. 6 people in the same class. Are you all trying to form a faction? It was really unexpected. They came from the garrison store. Captain Meng Zhongjun, Vice Captain Hao Han, Team Flower Zhen Piapiao, Zhang Haonan, Feng Juncheng and Jia Kuang. The 6 of them were all in this class and not a single one was missing. Meng Zhongjun laughed. We wouldn't dare. We are only here to cultivate. Our goal is to increase our cultivation. I don't think so. What's the use of saying it in such a dignified manner? Reality is the most practical. I feel that your garrison store wants to dominate the first class, and then the entire Hidden Dragon High Martial Arts Academy. TSK, you are really ambitious. Wuxia Duo shook his head and sighed. Then he said, fortunately, there are people from Phoenix City's second high school. From today onwards, Li Chenglong will represent Phoenix City's second high school. If you want to form a faction and fight, just fight with Li Chenglong. I won't interfere. With my level, fighting with you is bullying you. Zhuo Duo looked lonely at the top. Li Qinglong. Mingzheng. Everyone. Wen Xingtian. His hands were itching. He couldn't hold it in anymore. Wen Xingtian's face was gloomy. It was as dark as the bottom of a pot. His hands were grabbing and releasing. Oh right, where is your captain Ximendaqing? Vice Captain Xiangchong, your captain. Why isn't he here? Li Zhongming isn't here either. What is he afraid of? Zhuo Duo couldn't find Ximendaqing after searching for a long time. He was a bit surprised. Could it be that the captain of Hidden Dragon High School didn't enter the Hidden Dragon High School? He's in another class. Xiangchong clenched his teeth and tried his best to maintain a pleasant expression as he explained. Although Ximendaqing's strength was the best in Hidden Dragon High School's martial arts department, he used up a lot of his potential in order to increase his own level. He also used up a lot of his divine sense in the battle with Li Changming. In the end, Li Zhongming's great dream divine art directly damaged Ximendaqing's divine sense, causing his own foundation to greatly decrease. The Hidden Dragon High School's selection of students was based on talent and foundation. The result was that this former captain couldn't enter the first class. Ximendaqing's hatred for Phoenix City's second high school was as deep as the sea. He ran to another class. Yeah, I'm done greeting him. Zhuo Duo laughed. From now on we're all family. We're all partners in the same pot. Now I'll formally introduce myself. You guys have to listen carefully. Everyone subconsciously sneered. Finished greeting him? Did he offend him? How did this kid become the captain of Phoenix City's second high school? They were really puzzled. Why did I say that all of your conflicts go to Li Chenglong, and all of your grievances go to Li Chenglong? Zhuo Duo chuckled and proudly said, because my main occupation, or rather what I'm best at, has never been martial strength. Martial strength is insignificant compared to what I'm best at. Although I can already say that I'm invincible in our class, I really don't have any interest in fighting and killing. Zhuo Duo said mysteriously, guess what I'm good at? Below, the 35 people, including Li Chenglong, all looked at him with gloomy faces. Zhuo Duo laughed loudly and said proudly, you guys guess. Guess. It doesn't matter if you guess wrong. Come guess. A figure flashed. Zhuo Duo disappeared from the podium. Their homeroom teacher, Wen Xingtian, who had been standing next to him, also disappeared. Only an angry shout could be heard. I'll let you guess. Outside the classroom, the continuous sound of punches hitting flesh could be heard. The sound of the punches seemed to be in a progressive boom manner. It was a merciless punch and kick. What came along with it was Wuxia's blood-curdling screams and his grievances that soared to the sky. What's going on? It's just a self-introduction. Could it be that after coming to Hidden Dragon High School, I have to be beaten up first? I want to protest. I want to complain. I want to transfer schools. Ow. Teacher, I was wrong. Before this, Wen Xingtian had never dreamed that he would beat up the class monitor that he had decided on the first day. But it happened in such an explosive manner. This bastard still wants to be the class monitor? He has already offended the entire class and still wants to be a fart. Class monitor? Dream on. A moment later, Wen Xingtian dragged Zhuo Duo into the classroom and threw him on the podium. His face was dark. Continue talking. I want to see how long you can continue talking. What else can you say? Zhuo's nose was bruised and his face was swollen. His eyes were as big as a panda's. He stood on the podium in shame and grimaced in pain. The entire class roared with laughter. They all felt that it was too satisfying and too satisfying. Even Li Chenglong was no exception. No, it should be said that he was the happiest. Ever since Teacher Qin left, it had been a long time since someone had been able to teach this bastard a lesson. Felt so good. However, Li Chenglong also understood clearly in his heart. This bastard doesn't seem to want to be the class monitor. Otherwise, he wouldn't have done this. It's a little regretful. If he doesn't become the class monitor, I won't be able to use my support ability. My experience will be less glorious. But it doesn't matter. It's good to just practice martial arts. Li Chenglong was quick-witted and instantly understood a lot of things. Then he also convinced himself. If Swishaoduo becomes the class monitor, he won't have to do anything. Won't it be my job? It's good that he won't do it. Li Chenglong actually calmed down and was proud of his strategy. However, the others didn't think so much. They just looked at Swishaoduo and gloated. He was beaten up by the teacher on the first day of school. Ha ha. This guy definitely didn't have the face to continue talking. However, they saw Swishaoduo rubbing his face and even tidying his hair. He grimaced and then smiled. It's just a small accident. Well, let's continue. Everyone in the class broke out in cold sweat at the same time. How thick-skinned are you? In fact, as martial artists, it's normal for us to be beaten up, let alone by our own teacher. Isn't it normal for teacher to beat me up when he's so busy? Isn't it normal for him to beat me up? Look at how happy you are. You're gloating. Don't you have any camaraderie? Swishaoduo actually took the opportunity to teach everyone a lesson. He said, but it doesn't matter. I'm a magnanimous person. I won't care about these details. Let me tell you now. I'm best at 3 things. Among them, I'm best at fortune-telling, followed by wealth and martial arts. When it comes to fortune-telling, I can see your misfortunes, life and death crises, lifelong marriages, and future prospects. It's all-encompassing and all-encompassing. What do you not understand about life? What are you confused about? What are you worried about? Get out. Swishaoduo clearly hadn't finished speaking when he heard an angry roar. Then, his entire body suddenly flew up and landed on his seat with a plop. He sat down firmly on his butt. When Xingtian said in a suppressed voice, "Second, Li Chenglong." Li Chenglong was shocked. Was the teacher so angry? He walked up and said, "My name is Li Chenglong. I'm from Phoenix City's second high school. I'm 18 years old." At this point he felt that he could go down. However, when he looked down and saw Xiang Bing, who was looking at him with an irreconcilable expression, his head twitched. He didn't know why, but the last 2 words came out of his mouth. Unmarried. Xiang Bing's beautiful eyes were spitting fire. She almost exploded on the spot. Li Chenglong. If you're unmarried, then you're unmarried. Why are you looking at me? Swishaoduo said in a strange tone. Yo, Li Chenglong just said unmarried. Look at how agitated our beautiful Xiang Bing is. Xiang Bing suddenly stood up. She clenched her fists and was about to rush up. Xiang Chong, who was beside her, hurriedly pulled her back. He was so scared that his face turned pale. He whispered, "Sister, I can't beat him. I can't beat him." Chapter 379. Xiang Bing almost went crazy when she heard that. Other than being angered by Swishaoduo and Li Chenglong, she also had to be angered by her brother. How could she live her life like this? Li Chenglong's face was red as he bowed. I'm done with my introductions. All hail the sect leader. More than 20 voices shouted in unison. It was a little uneven, but it was still a spectacular sight. Then Meng Zhongjun stepped forward, followed by Xiang Chong, and then it had to be said that this class was just as Swishaoduo had said. There were quite a few opponents in the past. Xiang Chong, Xiang Bing, Pai Yibao, Yu Yan followed by Meng Zhongjun, Hao Han, Zhen Piapiao, Feng Juncheng, Jia Kuang, and Zhang Haonan. In addition to Swishaoduo and Li Chenglong, there were a total of 12 opponents who had participated in the Longhu tournament. After the class introductions, when Xingtian walked up to the podium with his lungs swollen, Swishaoduo's anger still hadn't subsided. When Xingtian did not understand, as the head of the martial arts department, his position was higher than the dean's. Why did the principal ask him to teach a class alone? Although he was still the head of the martial arts department, it was a waste of his talent. Now he understood. This class of fellows was really hard to train. Just Swishaoduo, who was ranked first, was already very hard to train. With one look, one could tell that he was a troublemaker. That student had offended the entire class on the first day of his self-introduction? He even dared to provoke the teachers? How dare he? If he did not beat him up, he would not be able to continue being the head teacher. He would not even be able to get past him. Now that the introductions are over, there are no classes on the first day of school. When Xingtian said, "Let's choose the class committee. There are the following positions: class monitor, vice class monitor, head of the Cultural and Education Department, head of the Martial Arts Department, and head of the Health Department. Everyone is a martial artist. You've heard everyone's introductions. Based on your memories and impressions, we'll choose the class monitor. The students could also canvass for votes on their own. Whoever wants to be the class monitor or feels that they are suitable for a certain position can go up to the podium to give a speech and canvass for votes. Shuo lowered his head. He looked calm, but in fact he was already dozing off. Class leader? He probably didn't choose me. After a long while, no one came forward to run for the position of class monitor. What Shuo thought of was obviously what everyone else thought. No one wanted to do such an unpleasant job. When Xingtian was already prepared, he directly handed out a blank piece of paper to each person. Then he sent two beautiful women. One of them was to draw the paper while the other was to read the votes. Shuo. Hence, Shuo made a horizontal move. Shuo. Add another vertical line. Shuo. Add another horizontal line when Xingtian's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. Originally, he wanted to directly appoint Shuo as the class monitor. However, after seeing this guy's performance, he had already vetoed the idea in his heart. Hence there was a secret ballot. But how did this guy get so many votes? As the voting went on, Shuo's face broke down. Slowly, his mouth opened wider and wider. What's going on? Why did they still all choose me? I ridiculed all of you with my speeches and actions, but in the end all of you were convinced? This was somewhat incomprehensible. After the 36 people finished voting, Shuo won 24 votes in one fell swoop. He was actually elected as the class monitor with an absolute advantage. When Xingtian was very unhappy with this result. He already knew that if someone else was the class monitor, it would be very easy for him to lead this class. At least it wouldn't be difficult to lead. However, Shuo was the class monitor. This was a shameless, immoral and lawless guy. With him as the leader, trouble would come one after another in the future. Today was the first time they met. It was less than half an hour. In such a short time when Xingtian had already seen Shuo's true nature. If Shuo led the class to tear down the school building in a few days, that when Xingtian wouldn't find it strange at all. This was a troublemaker. Little did he know that Shuo himself was also dumbfounded. He didn't know that when the students came to the high school to further their studies, they were all strangers to each other. Many of them couldn't recognize their classmates for a few days and didn't know their specific names. He was beaten up as soon as he came in, and then he was beaten up by the head teacher on the spot. This impression was very deep. They only knew and remembered this name. If they didn't choose him, who else would they choose? As long as they didn't have a grudge against him, they would think, hey, this guy is quite fun. If he becomes the class monitor, everyone will benefit a lot. But no matter what the reason was, class monitors Shuo was going to take office. Next was the election for vice class monitor. Li Chenglong, who was sitting obediently, heard the voice. Come up and run for vice class monitor. Swollen was confused. He looked up and saw the head teacher when Xingtian looking at him with shining eyes. Li Chenglong stood up helplessly. My name is Li Chenglong. I'm running for the position of vice class monitor. Leader is almighty. There was another round of uneven roars. However, the result was obvious. Other than Xiang Bing and Xiang Chong, Li Chenglong was elected with an unexpected 33 votes. This was the result he didn't want to vote for himself. Minister of Culture and Education Meng Zhongjun. Minister of Martial Arts Xiang Chong. Minister of Health Xiang Bing. Xiang Bing repeatedly expressed his unwillingness to take office but was heartlessly rejected by Wen Xingtian. He was almost suppressed. Shuo expressed his unwillingness to take office but was glared at by Wen Xingtian. Do you think you can take office just because you want to? Is it that beautiful? Shuo could sense the teacher's deep malice. He could sense that he was about to be beaten up. Therefore, he immediately sat down and admitted defeat. Fine, I've been in this position for 5 years. I'm not afraid of this. Hence, the 999th batch of the Hidden Dragon High School students had formed a leadership team. However, they still needed to work on the operation. Class monitor's Wuxia duo with quotation marks was expected by everyone. After the selection, of course, there was a routine inauguration speech. However, when Xingtian allowed the students to make their own speeches, he turned and went to the principal's office. He wanted to seek an explanation. He really didn't dare to listen to class monitor's speech. Teacher 1 was afraid that he would have a cerebral hemorrhage due to anger. After so many years of fighting, he had suffered many internal and external injuries. Furthermore, this young lad's speech was the kind that would anger people to death. That after Teacher 1 left, Swordsmanship duo went up to the stage with his hands behind his back and started to speak in a graceful manner. Silence. Now let me, the class monitor, explain to you what fortune-telling is and what's so profound about it. Let me tell you, you guys are really lucky to be in the same class as me. It's a huge advantage. In cultivation it's called fate, a fate greater than the heavens. You guys are really too lucky. I sincerely express my admiration and jealousy for your luck. When Xingtian dashed into the principal's office. Principal. When Xingtian walked in with a strange expression. Divine shit? What's the matter? The principal was eating something. He did not know what he was eating and did not care. He simply asked vaguely and continued to do his own things. This was Wuxia duo. When Xingtian's face was full of depression. I need to look at his information, including the information about his 3 touches and 5 comments. He waved the name list. Of course, I also need to look at the others' information. You don't need to look at the others' information. The principal swallowed the food in his mouth and said, you just need to look at Wuxia's information. He sighed. These days I've been studying the top 3 touches of these students' 3 touches and 5 comments. This Wuxia duo is really quite different. Oh? Different and quite? When Xingtian said, is he a C grade? Or a D grade? That's really quite different. The principal sighed. Your guess is right, but his level is wrong. His assessment is no level. No level. When Xingtian's eyes suddenly widened. You'll know when you see it for yourself. The content on my desktop now is this kid's 3 touches and 5 comments. I've been studying it for half a day. The principal handed a huge geocentric pear and said, eat while you read it. Your heart hasn't recovered yet? You're still eating the geocentric pear? When Xingtian asked with concern. It's not that easy for the heart to recover. The principal smiled faintly. Without the geocentric astral soul's jade, you can only rely on the geocentric pear to suppress it bit by bit. When Xingtian said, if you can collect more top-grade astral soul's jade, you can relieve more of it. Collecting top-grade astral soul's jade is already difficult enough. To collect the core of the top-grade astral soul's jade, the geocentric astral soul's jade, is naturally more difficult. This thing has not appeared for many years. The principal smiled faintly. The geocentric astral soul's jade is always priceless. Even if we are not stingy with money, but who would be willing to sell a top-grade spiritual treasure like the geocentric astral soul's jade that can aid in cultivation? After so many years, we've only managed to collect 30 pieces of it. The Southern Chief sent us 200 pieces last time, but I think that should be the limit of what the Ministry of Finance can give us. It has been supporting me for 200 years, and now it's the end. There used to be some on the market, but since you were injured, there were suddenly none. Even if there were a few pieces, they would be maliciously bid for. When Xingtian's eyes were full of anger. Principal, I suspect. The principal said faintly. What's the use of suspecting? Now the Hidden Dragon High School is no longer the Hidden Dragon High School of the past. I even suspect that the assassination of Vice Principal Xiang was also their doing. When Xingtian said angrily, these people only care about fighting for power and profit, ignoring the big picture. I really want to. The principal coughed and said, it's because of this that I let you personally lead the class this time. This year's genius students are all gathered in your hands. You must train them well. If my heart still does not improve in the next 3 years, I can only give up the position of Hidden Dragon High School's principal and give it to someone better. Because at that time, I'm afraid that I won't be able to continue and can't support the work of this position. Wen Xingtian did not say anything, but his face was pale. Or this year's students will be the last batch of high-quality talents that we send out. The principal coughed and said, as long as I, Yi Chongqing, am in charge, I can still guarantee that the Hidden Dragon High School's spirit will not change. But once the power falls into the hands of those people, I don't know where the Hidden Dragon High School's spirit will be taken. Shang. Xingtian, if it really comes to that, only you will be left to support the overall situation. When Xingtian laughed coldly, support the overall situation? You think too highly of me. Not to mention that you are not here. How can I support the situation alone? Not to mention whether I can hold on or not, just one sentence. Do you think they will let me go? If you are not here, I will run away at the first moment and change to another place. Where can I not be free? Yi Chongqing's eyes flashed with a complicated expression, and he sighed deeply. When Xingtian had already sat in front of the computer and opened Wuxia's document. This was the first touch? Chapter 380. A few minutes later, when Xingtian looked at the 3 comments, his eyes were spinning. When Xingtian's voice was a little hoarse, he turned his head and asked Principal Yi Chongqing, these are Heaven and Earth Network's comments? Yi Chongqing grinned. Yes. Do you feel that your worldview has been destroyed? Can't believe it? When Xingtian's expression was very interesting. The principal was right. His worldview was really destroyed. He couldn't believe it. The first one touched the heterodox demon's heart. The second one touched few desires and doubtful castration. The third one was even better. For question marks? When Xingtian felt that his 1,000-year calmness had been broken. Since when did Heaven and Earth Network have written comments? When Xingtian was dumbfounded. Could it be that the A, B, C, and D systems have been abolished? Why didn't I know about it? Yi Chongqing coughed and said, other people's comments are still A, B, C, and D. As far as I know, among all the students in this batch, only 2 people have written comments. The first one is naturally Wuxia Duo. All 3 comments were weird. The other one is Zhou Yunqing. When he touched the third one, Heaven and Earth Network gave him a comment of sword energy soaring to the sky. Then, this comment was overridden by Gu Qianfan with his authority. Yi Chongqing said, although Zhou Yunqing also had a written comment, it was only once. However, Wuxia Duo had 3 comments. However, Wuxia's alma mater is obviously not as good as Zhou Yunqing's. Well, it's mainly because it's not as powerful as Gu Qianfan, so the confidentiality is not very good. After I confirmed that Wuxia Duo would come to Hidden Dragon University, I immediately re-encrypted it. Then I put aside my pride and went to my old friends in Heaven and Earth Network to erase the comments. Now if the outside world investigates Wuxia Duo, they can only find 3 A's. They can't find the content of the written comments. In other words, other than the insiders of Wuxia's alma mater, I am the only one who can see the original version of the evaluation. Of course, there's another thing to consider. After Wuxia Duo participated in the competition, those who paid special attention to him, especially those who had the authority to investigate the examinee's records, must have seen his evaluation. Yi Chongqing's eyes revealed a hint of worry. When Xingtian's eyes were deep as he said, there may not be a single person in hundreds of years who is evaluated by the Heavenly Network. No matter what the evaluation is, it must be an extremely special talent. 2 words and 1 question mark. Someone else must know. I'm sure all the principals of the universities know about it, right? When Xingtian asked, it doesn't matter if the principals know about it. Those old fellows who are able to reach these positions all know about it. Many of them value talents more than we do, so they won't reveal it easily. What I'm worried about now is someone else. Because when I erased it, Wuxia Duo had already gone to the finals of the Longhu List tournament. Yi Chongqing was deeply worried. He let out a long sigh and said, I'm sorry, Principal He Yuanyue. When Xingtian frowned, he was puzzled. What did this have to do with this? Principal He Yuanyue? 3 months before the Longhu List tournament, He Yuanyue once sent me a message about Wuxia Duo in my mailbox. She hoped that I could help to cover up Swishaoduo's records. But at that time I didn't think much of it. Because the Hidden Dragon Academy has seen too many talents. Most of them were just their alma mater's groundless fears, and even used this to attract attention. That's how it passed. Now that I think about it, Yi Chongqing sighed deeply. I'm really sorry for Principal He's trust. At that time, she should have already decided to let Swishaoduo come to the Hidden Dragon Academy. Where's the source file? Has it been deleted? When Xingtian felt a toothache. It's gone now. Yi Chongqing's gray eyebrows twitched. His eyes flashed. When Xingtian grimaced. There were only 3 tests. If you want to talk about the second one, I can still understand. No, I can't understand the second one. Didn't Swishaoduo cultivate the Flaming Sun scripture? Would someone who cultivates the Flaming Sun scripture be castrated? That's definitely nonsense. As for the first one, how did you get the evaluation of the heterodox demon heart? And the third one, it was just a very ordinary undercover operation. Why would there be 4 question marks? Why? Principal, you deleted it too early. You should have at least let me, the class teacher, see it before deleting it. When Xingtian felt it was a pity, Yi Chongqing said indifferently, it's too dangerous. He's too weak now. It's too easy for him to die in the middle. No wonder you rented your villa to Swishaoduo. When Xingtian said, the true meaning in your bones is because of this, isn't it? First, it's because of the 3 tests and 5 evaluations. Second, it's because of Principal He Yuanyue's request. Third, it's because of Swishaoduo's Longhu ranking battle. Fourth, it's because of the Flaming Sun scripture. Fifth, it's because of the internal strife of the Hidden Dragon Academy. Sixth, it's because of the aftermath of the life and death arena. Seventh, it's because of the future of the Hidden Dragon Academy. Yi Chongqing said softly on my side. I can guarantee that anyone who comes will die within 3 years. A sharp killing intent flashed in his eyes. Unfortunately, I can only guarantee his safety for 3 years. Yi Chongqing said indifferently. In order to ensure that nothing goes wrong, I specially transferred you. When Xingtian said slowly, I didn't expect Principal to value Swishaoduo so much. If I didn't see it with my own eyes, I wouldn't believe it. Yi Chongqing smiled and said in a low voice, haven't you already seen this child? What do you think? When Xingtian smiled bitterly, I just gave him a beating. Gave him a beating? Yi Chongqing was stunned. If I remember correctly, he just came to register today, right? When Xingtian had a headache and was speechless. After a while he said, you don't know. This guy is a frisky monkey. He's the kind that makes my hands itch when I see him. This naughty fellow. If it wasn't for the thing hanging from his crotch, I think he could fly. Yi Chongqing was speechless for a while. After a pause he murmured, how can it be? Little Jean has a very high opinion of this kid. Especially in the way he interacts with people. He has a very high EQ. Why is it that when it comes to you, he was beaten up by the class teacher in less than an hour after registering for school? This doesn't make sense. What's even more bizarre is that this guy was elected as the class monitor by secret ballot. When Xingtian said with a twisted face, Principal, if my premonition is right, the Hidden Dragon Academy is going to have a lot of trouble from now on. Yi Chongqing smiled faintly and said proudly, even if he can cause trouble, when have we, the Hidden Dragon Academy, ever been afraid of trouble? As long as he doesn't do anything outrageous, this old man can shoulder anything else. Do you think this old man was just joking when I said that I would guarantee his safety for 3 years? When Xingtian's lips moved, but he didn't say anything. He originally came to understand Swishaoduo better. Now that he had a thorough understanding of him, he wanted to leave. However, there was a sentence that he kept in his heart. He didn't say it out of respect for the principal. I saw this kid's character today. I'm afraid that if he causes trouble in the future, even you, the principal of one of the 3 Hidden Dragon Academy, may not be able to handle it. Of course, this sentence couldn't be said face to face. Looking down on the principal? That wouldn't do. When Xingtian returned to class, it was already past the end of class. However, the students were still waiting. However, each and every one of them had a strange expression, as if they had been brutally ravaged by something. It was probably the kind of emotional breakdown. Each and every one of them looked like their worldview had been destroyed. What's going on? Wen Xingtian was puzzled, but he didn't care too much. School is over. You can go back to the dormitory to rest. At night, you can study by yourself. You can also take a look at how to earn credits. From today onwards, the currency and resources that you have on hand are not allowed to be used in exchange in school. Yes, you can use it for your own practice, but you can't use it for trading. In school, no matter if it's food, water, practice manuals, pills, etc., you have to use credits to exchange for them. Within a month, if you can't earn credits, you will automatically drop out. Within 3 months, if you can't earn 50 credits, you will automatically drop out. Within half a year, if you can't earn 200 credits, you will automatically drop out. Within a year, if you can't break through to the embryonic breathing realm, you will automatically drop out. For consecutive drops out, it was full of murderous intent and stirred people's hearts. However, those who were present were all geniuses of their generation, so no one really cared. Credits? Wasn't that a piece of cake? In the past, when they were from the martial arts school, they also needed to earn credits and trade for resources. There was nothing new about it. Today is the first day, so I will temporarily let you go and not interfere with your actions. However, from tomorrow morning onwards at 5 o'clock in the morning, all of you must be in place to begin practicing and battling. We will use your actual results to determine your class ranking. Wen Xingtian said indifferently, using the method of a life and death battle. School was over. Wen Xingtian was the first to walk out, and the students behind him followed suit. Once they walked out, the students were stunned by what they saw. There was a sea of people in front of them, and all of them were wearing martial arts uniforms with hidden dragons on their chests. It was the kind of white martial arts uniforms with hidden dragons on their chests. At a glance, there seemed to be more than 1,000 people. These people formed an extremely huge and spectacular circle. Everyone had their hands crossed in front of their chests, looking mockingly at Swordsmanship duo, and the other 36 people who were walking out of the classroom. Some of the students had 2 claws on their chests in the shape of the dragon. Some students had 3 claws on their chests, while the smallest group had 4 claws. Obviously, the number of dragon claws represented the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th years. Swordsmanship duo and the others were naturally the first years who had just arrived. Their martial arts uniforms had not been distributed yet. Even if they were, it would be obvious from their posture that there was only 1 claw embroidered on their chests. Hello, Director 1. More than 1,000 students greeted him at the same time. Their voices were earth-shattering, and waves of air surged. Wen Xingtian said indifferently, "Don't you all have anything to do? Are you all waiting here to watch the show?" A student laughed loudly in the crowd. "I heard that this batch is an unprecedented selection. We were excited to see it, so we specially came to get to know our juniors and see what the so-called geniuses are like." Another student laughed loudly and said, "Especially since our beloved leader is among them. If we don't come and greet him, wouldn't it be rude?" Laughter shook the sky. You're tuning into the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.